across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good evening. This is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company this Monday evening. It's a busy start to the week, especially the Brexit wars within the Labour Party, and West Streeting and Andy Burnham having a sort of shadow boxing already, even before the by-election in Makerfield, which is going to be on Thursday, the 18th of June. So just about 6 weeks, not even that, a month, in fact, a month exactly from today, there will be that by-election. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. One polling company saying that Andy Burnham has a 55% chance of losing. So we'll see what happens there. But the Brexit wars are happening. Andy Burnham says it's something that he wants in the longer term to rejoin the EU. West Streeting says it should happen faster. And, well, Starmer's just kind of caught in the middle of it all. We'll find out what Isabel Oakeshott thinks about all of that in a second. And in Reform, there's big news as well. David Bull is out as chairman of Reform UK, late of this parish, of course. He was a presenter on this station, and Lee Anderson has replaced him. We'll talk to Isabel about that. We'll talk about the ad blitz from Reform against Burnham. Fascinating story about Married at First Sight UK as well. There are allegations of rape within the production process of that. We'll talk about a really astonishing piece of footage that I'm going to show you about JD Sports and some very brave people who took on some shoplifters there, and we know that that is a very, very busy and difficult story. Also, would Britain benefit from bare minimum Mondays? This is originating on TikTok. It's a self-care strategy involving completing only your essential tasks on Mondays. Well, given the productivity problems in this country, many people will say that it's important to do as much as you can on a Monday, and indeed every other day. Also, the council handing out blue badges for people who have ADHD. This diagnosis of ADHD goes on, and we'll talk to someone this evening who has it. Lots to discuss. I'd love to hear your views on all of it. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, send me a WhatsApp, text message, or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss this Monday evening, so stay with me here on Talk. Melanie's been in touch already and says it's unbelievable that the two candidates pushing to be leader of Labour are proposing to impose policies yet again on us that were not in the Labour manifesto, as with the current leader. This is totally undemocratic, and we demand a general election to restore democracy. Well, interestingly, the EU and rejoining the EU was on the lips of many politicos over the weekend as the Burnham-Streeting Starmer psychodrama continues. Let's hear from Andy Burnham and what he thinks about everything going on at the moment.
If you look at the last 50 years, Britain has been on the wrong path. 40 years on the wrong path. A path that has damaged communities across the north. The deindustrialisation of the 1980s was devastating for places across Makerfield, like Ashton in Makerfield, Orrell, Winstanley, Hindley, Plattbridge. But you know, you could reel off the same place names, couldn't you, in your communities? You know exactly what I am talking about. The draining away of economic, social and political power from these places, left adrift.
Not a huge amount of charisma there. We had a slight problem with the audio at the start. Apologies for that, some gremlins in the system. But, I mean, this is the man who's meant to be the brilliant communicator. He's meant to connect with people and be an amazing, perhaps new leader of the Labour Party. Speaking of leader of the Labour Party, you might have heard of Keir Starmer. He was talking about the Makerfield by-election. This is what he's been saying today.
Well, I'm not going to do that. It is obviously a very important by-election. And can I be really clear, as I've also my staff this morning, it is a fight between Labour and Reform. It's a very important fight. I will be backing 100% whoever the candidate is, not quite chosen yet, but soon to be chosen. Whoever the Labour candidate is, I'll be 100% behind them. I want the whole of the party, whole movement tied together. Whatever views people may have on the direction of the party, that needs to be put to one side. It's an important by-election. Let's come together and do what we do as a party best, which is to unite as we campaign into this by-election.
sorry, hold on. He said, we're going to do what we do best as a party, which is unite. Have you been following politics in the last 10 years, Prime Minister? Or indeed the last 10 days even, or even the last 10 hours? Let's speak to Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor. Isabel, what planet is he on?
Oh, I don't know. They both bored me. I mean, I tried to listen to Andy Burnham's speech, and it was sort of tiny bit better in terms of, sounding a little bit less robotic than Keir Starmer, but it was pretty boring, wasn't it? It was pretty dry. Be fair on the guy, I guess this is only sort of proper day one, I guess. He's probably still a bit traumatized after being photographed.
But he's been a professional politician for years, Isabel. I mean, this is the person who's meant to relight our fire and make sure that, this is going to be an amazing country and build it back up for the next 3 years under Labour.
Well, I don't think he's relit any fires yet. And as for Keir Starmer just standing there going, well, he's going to support Andy Burnham, we're going to do what we do best, which is unite, as his whole party's going to disintegrating before his eyes.
Exactly.
It's laughable, really, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, where do you see this going? Because, I mean, it's basically unthinkable that Andy Burnham will not be the Makerfield candidate. But given that Keir Starmer was essentially banned from Wales when it came to their election, which Labour did very, very badly and lost power after a quarter of a century, is he going to be up in Makerfield knocking doors for Andy Burnham?
I would not expect to see him doing that. He hates all that anyway. I mean,
real people.
He'd much rather be abroad, wouldn't he? I would have thought that the party, that Andy Burnham's machine will basically say, thanks, but no thanks, Keir. You're an absolute liability on the doorstep. That's the last thing he needs is Keir Starmer to come up. In fact, if Keir Starmer wants to sabotage Burnham's campaign, which he has very good reasons to do, then he'd spend extra time in that constituency.
Yes, it's a very good point. Just take us through what's been said and what your view is on the Brexit betrayal discussions that are being had, certainly in regard to Burnham and Wes Streeting today.
Yeah, well, this is actually really interesting because Wes Streeting has obviously decided that one of his key ways of kind of winning over the Labour Party membership and the Parliamentary Party is to say that he wants to rejoin the EU, which basically puts Andy Burnham in a very difficult position by making this at the absolute forefront of what is just at this point a by-election campaign and potentially a leadership contest. Now, Andy Burnham in the past, a pretty recent past, has been absolutely on record as saying that he hopes the UK will rejoin the EU in future. And now, knowing that in Makerfield, people are pretty pro-Brexit.
Yeah.
Andy Burnham is sort of furiously backpedaling and trying to find a form of words that doesn't make himself sound as if he's contradicting his own position and saying, well, this is not a debate to have now. But I think that's going to haunt him in this campaign. And I'll repeat what I said. I don't know whether it was to you. I don't think it was on Friday. I think he's made a big miscalculation choosing this constituency. I know that beggars can't be choosers, and I'm sure he would have preferred a different one. But this is a really tough fight. And in fairness to him, if he can beat Reform in this constituency, then he will have proven himself. And Wes Streeting, and again, in fairness to him, has acknowledged that had Andy Burnham not been given time to try to get a seat and get back to Westminster, and had the forthcoming leadership contest excluded Andy Burnham for that reason, then whoever won it might not have been seen as truly legitimate heir to Starmer.
It's a very good point. I just want to play one more clip of Starmer on Brexit on this debate and then get your reaction to it. This is Keir Starmer.
The way I see it is this. We inherited a really bad Brexit deal that Boris Johnson had negotiated. It was a botched deal. It doesn't work for businesses, doesn't work for the country. What I've done in 2 years is to completely reset our relations with our EU partners, to already have improved on that deal, which is what I did last year. This year we have another summit with the EU where we're going to take a really a really important leap forward in terms of the relationship, bring us closer to Europe. It's really good for businesses, really good for some of the businesses in this room, really good for the country. So that's what I intend to do, not get lost in a debate about what may happen years down the line. I'm grounded in the job that I'm doing, which is to make sure we are closer to the EU and doing the hard yards and making sure that we establish a relationship to make that right, get that relationship with the EU into a better place. And again, reminding myself, why would we want to do that? For businesses, for the country, for the economy, because it's the best thing. It's in our national interest. So that's where my focus is.
Isabel?
Well, this is desperate stuff, isn't it? I mean, we all know what he's saying there. He wants ever closer alignment with the EU. He's not going to say, I'm going to take Britain back in. He's not got the power to do that in his position at the moment anyway. But we know that that's really what he means. And we know that this Labour government, like the Tory ones that preceded it, has not made anything like a proper job of maximising our ability to do things differently now that we are no longer part of the EU. I really think fools rush in here where angels fear to tread, and that the Labour Party will pay a heavy price in the longer term for banging this drum. I know there are many people in the UK that have never got over leaving the EU, and there will be a few people, a significant number, that think Brexit has not been a success. But to reopen this absolute can of political worms is high risk indeed. I think it smacks of real desperation that this is what they're doing now.
It's interesting with Burnham because Reform UK has already launched a bit of an ad blitz on him, basically saying he's a journeyman and he'll do exactly whatever it takes to become Prime Minister and he has no integrity. We also have a development in Reform UK as well because Dr David Bull has been replaced as chairman of Reform UK by the MP Lee Anderson. Just give us your reaction to that, Isabel.
Well, we love David, don't we? You know, we know David well as a presenter on Talk, and David has been part of Reform and played a pivotal role in Reform for years now. You know, David was there holding the party together along with my fiancé Richard Tice in the dark, difficult years when Reform was not fashionable, when Reform was not polling anywhere near where it is now. So he's an incredible servant of the party in that respect. And I think the thing here is that, you know, people forget Reform still only has 8 MPs. There's so much noise about Reform and expectation and speculation. Could Reform be the next government? Reform has just less than 10 MPs at this point. And David would make an incredible MP. He'd be so good at it. And I suspect that perhaps a party being very strategic as it is looking at whether there might be more by-elections. And we know there are, you know, by-elections happen even when you're not anticipating it. But there may be 1 or 2 by-elections, I don't know which they are, that are expected or likely to come up at some point this year. And perhaps there's a feeling that the party really needs David in Parliament, where he would be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Isabel. Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor there. Thanks to everybody who's been in touch, including Margaret in Birmingham, who says this Labour government are obsessed with the EU. Think Andy Burnham is in for a bit of a surprise. And Starmer still thinks he will be in number 10 till the next general election. There, a two-tier Keir is in cloud cuckoo land, says Margaret in Birmingham. Mark in Selby says, Peter, if Labour does try to take us back into the EU, would the UK have to accept the euro and lose the pound and stand by for all candidates from the left in Makerfield to fumble when asked to define a woman? It's the question they just cannot handle, and their answers will make great listening, says Mark. Richard in Leicester says, good job, Peter. There's nothing else going on in the world except Burnham, Starmer, etc. Anyone would think it's all a big distraction for what's coming. Good evening to you. Well, Richard, don't worry. We're covering a lot more stories. We're going to go to the debate desk in just a second with Joe Wheeler and indeed Matthew Torbett. They will be here talking about all the big stories of the day, including the UK firms linked to payments for small boat crossings and this big scandal that's developing about Married at First Sight UK allegations that a couple of the women who've been on Married at First Sight, the reality TV show, have been raped. Those allegations are being looked into at the moment. We'll also talk about a few other stories. There's a fascinating piece of footage I want to show you about shoplifting, what happened in the store, and some of those really brave workers, I think it was in JD Sports actually, going after people, trying to get the stock back that was there. We'll be on the debate desk in just a second. As always, I want your views on Burnham, on West Streeting, on shoplifting, on whatever you want to talk about. Another story about school children taught black people cannot be racist to white people. Complete bunkum. Tell us what you think. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk.
Not wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely. I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true, yes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We'll get to more calls, texts, tweets and voice notes in a minute. Keep sending them in. There's a bit of footage I really want to show you. So if you're listening on the radio, now's the time to have a look on YouTube or your connected device, your connected TV at this bit of footage. I'll narrate it for people who are listening on the radio. We never forget that the majority of people are listening on the radio. But if you are watching the screen, I just want to show you this. It's attempted shoplifting, and some of the goods were shoplifted from JD Sports at the weekend in London. Just have a look at this. It's extraordinary. So you've got these good-for-nothings who are stealing loads of stuff. The alerts go off there, and then there are very brave workers there, mostly female, who are running after these people, trying to take the stock off them. One quite small woman, actually, in the hijab there, just at the top, tearing the hoodie back from that guy and trying to get it off them. And that just shows, I think, yet again, the struggle that there is, not just in London, right across the country, to deal with shoplifters and to deal with people who come in, their hoods up, coverings on their faces, trying to steal, you know, hundreds if not thousands of pounds worth of stock and getting away with it. Now that is a good example of workers who have tried hard to ensure that that stock isn't taken. We know from a number of different retailers that people have actually been sacked for attempting to stop people doing that. Well, I'm on the debate desk with Matthew Torbett, the former Labour Party advisor, and Joe Wheeler, the political commentator. Lovely to see you both. When you look at that footage, what do you think, Matthew?
It's just depressing because we see so much of it now. Jim Waterson at London Centric's done a lot of good work on this, going particularly after the incident we saw in Croydon and M&S, was it last month? He went back down and found a lot of the youths that were taking part. And what they were saying is some of them get swept up in it. That doesn't make it right, but a lot of them...
I mean, that was a really huge number of people going to Marks and Spencer's.
So they tend to have these meetups organised through things like Snapchat, social media, etc. None of them really have any mates because, as we know, communities are becoming more insular. They sit in their bedrooms. It's all social media. It's all sat on their phones. So it's a chance to go and meet up. Oh, something might happen. We might have a water fight. We might do, something daft, whatever. And then there are people leading them around and going doing this sort of stuff. And I think it gets a bit addictive. You don't realise.
I'm sure for those people. I mean, it's horrible, and I'm not glamorising it at all. But I'm sure it's exciting for those people.
I think so, and I imagine if you're in a big group, you think, well, I'm not going to get caught. Or there's hundreds of us in that incident.
I mean, I had a friend at school who was a shoplifter, and she said she didn't want the stuff. She was quite a thin person actually. She didn't eat the chocolate or the things that she was stealing. She just said it was the thrill of it.
Yeah, I can totally imagine it. Where I think we're going wrong is, and I don't want to sound like back in my day, I'd be worried about the discipline that was coming when I got home and when I was found out. I wouldn't have done that. So there's an element of, I think, parental failure, and then there is an aspect of kids maybe feeling that the law isn't going to come and get them or whatever. There's a lack of action.
And a little bit later on in the programme, actually, we're going to be talking to someone who's been in prison, David Shipley, about whether parents and guardians of children who break the law should face prison themselves. So tell us your reaction, Joe, to the footage, first of all. What went through your head?
Well, it's absolutely horrifying for a start. And I think what has filtered down through the media is the fact that basically they're not going to pursue shoplifters until it gets to a certain value. But if you look at something like JD Sports, and sports equipment is very, very expensive before you begin.
Even sportswear, even some of those breathable T-shirts and things like that,
You only have to pick up a small amount. But where are the morals? I mean, is this a word that has vanished from the English dictionary? Because, frankly, I mean, it's not just your parents and being fearful of how they might discipline you, but where is your moral compass? Why aren't we teaching this in schools? Why don't they understand this? I know that, well, certainly my kids went to a C of E school, and quite frankly, it's just against all teachings to do that kind of thing. And even if you move up more towards the secular, Mrs. Do as you will be done by, you don't steal from people. It's not yours. You don't have a right to it. I mean, these are very simple phrases, very simple edicts on life, and they should be followed. Why don't people understand this? Why do they feel that they can take from others?
Is there a moral vacuum, Matthew?
There's a moral vacuum, and I think a glamorisation on social media. This is not to let kids or parents off the hook, but I think there are many. You think about when we was younger, Peter, all of us actually in that instance, but the only people we had to compare ourselves to were probably people on our estate, our road, and the people we went to school with. We have kids now comparing themselves to everybody and assuming they've all got to have loads of money, they've all got to be successful. And I think because many of them feel like they can't be because of whatever reasons, education or whatever, they think they'll go nick and make money that way. I don't think half of them want them clothes. I think a lot of them will sell those clothes on. Doesn't make it right whatsoever, but there's got to be somewhere where we step in and go, it's fine to just middle through life, get on, do the right thing, have good male role models that show you that doing the right thing is okay and good.
But then if you see a society, and we're getting quite philosophical here, but if you see a society where there is no reward really for doing the right thing, and there are often rewards for people who don't do the right thing, that's a lesson in itself, Joe.
Well, yes, it is. Along with, the loss of a moral compass is also the fact of can't work towards what you want or won't work towards what you want. If people have lost the idea that if they work hard, if they are diligent...
But so many people don't need to. I mean, we're talking about the social media influencers who are on their phone, and, you have the manosphere, you have a lot of social media influencers who are making huge amounts of money by doing very, very little, by pointing a camera at something.
Yes, but very few people are, and if you work on that basis, you have to say, if you and your entire class, class 3B or whatever, 35 of you, are all doing the same thing, I'm sorry, you're then diluting the situation. I mean, you only have to look at television for that. Once upon a time we had 3 channels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and the entire viewership was divided between those. Now, of course, you've got many, many channels, and the viewer per channels go down. They have to. And that's going to be the same with influencers or anything else that is one of those
limited number of eyeballs.
Yeah, well, yes, 100%.
Exactly.
And so actually, if you want to make money, if you want those nice things in life, you need to go out and work for them.
We've got a message from Dave in Worthing. Just actually, before we go on, I think it was Clapham Marks and Spencers rather than Croydon Marks and Spencer, if I remember correctly. Thank you to Bob in Cheltenham, who's just corrected us on that one. Dave in Worthing says, I worked as a security guard only 9 years ago. We worked in a team throughout the town, different security from several shops. We stopped people daily for items as low as £20. The police would come and arrest them. It's madness now, but there is no deterrent, says Dave. And that is often what happens. There is no deterrent. And if people think they can get away with it, well, why not do it, Matthew?
And they do. You know, this is a big piece of work I'm doing at the minute for the Centre for Social Justice on high streets, how broken they are, the failed asylum system essentially propping up high streets through vape shops and barber shops and whatever else, or frontages for them. And I did a little bit of unscientific market research in my area, and I went and spoke to local supermarkets and bakeries and Greggs and whatever else. And astoundingly, they said, certainly in the supermarket, they said if I was to stop 100 people, certainly coming from the self-serve, and that seems to be a big thing, the self-serve checkouts, he says that 95 out of the 100 would not have paid for everything they've got. And I said, that many? He said, 1,000,000%.
Wow.
He says, and you get a lot of career-type criminals who are told by solicitors, that security guard cannot touch you, otherwise he's in trouble. And therefore they know they can go in, gangs of them, which it is, and go and take stuff out.
We've covered these stories. The guy who worked for, I think it was Waitrose for nearly 20 years, who was sacked for taking on a shoplifter.
Which is wrong in itself. But, you know, interestingly, when we're talking about it, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going wrong somewhere. You know, I often go through the self-serve, and the idea that you go through and not pay for something is abhorrent to me. If I realise that there's something in my basket that I haven't paid for, I would go back.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and I feel the same way. And that was just the way I was brought up. I just wouldn't.
But and also,
go through that.
I think we're going to try and stop this, and it may be a long-term thing of shifting society on. I also posed the question: is it cheaper to put a load more normal tills back in, employ staff who people are going to find harder to get stuff past, than the literal hundreds of millions shops are losing to people just
But that's the
taking
point.
stuff
That's the point as well. A similar point can be made about customer service, for example. So loads of people complain about customer service and say I was kept on hold for 40 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever, and then I got cut off. There aren't enough customer service people. So many businesses have said that's not a priority for us. Our priority is to give you, the broadband or whatever it is as cheaply as possible. We'll give that to you. We're not going to put money into customer service. Therefore, there'll be fewer customer service operatives, and customer service isn't a priority for us, and our customer service isn't that good, and we don't care. And actually, if you're in a supermarket, you're going to try and cut costs as much as you can. And if you say we're going to have 3 people working in there, especially as things like national insurance rises go up and employing people is more expensive, and the bottom line is what they'll be thinking about.
Yeah, I hear that, and I think that's a legitimate argument, particularly as we're all going to end up paying more anyway, whether it be shoplifters or national insurance contributions, minimum wage, etc., etc. I just think surely as an investment you're going to lose more in shoplifted goods than you are employing people, and I think therefore that's an easier trade-off, I would say.
It makes perfect sense. Bob says the action on shoplifting should be immediate. Pepper spray available to all retail guards, otherwise nothing will change. I've witnessed many shoplifters with no conscience on their actions. Joanna says if I had stolen something when I was young, I'd have been shunned by school friends and looked down on by my neighbours. Now it's almost a badge of honour. Look what I got away with. So a lot on this. Please keep your thoughts coming in. 0344 499 1000. After the break, we're going to talk about Makerfield. I know there are a number of people on the phones who want to talk about that. We'll see what Joe and indeed Matthew thinks. Matthew's very plugged into the Labour Party on all of this, and we'll take a call, I think, at least on that as well. So stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dawn's been in touch from Chelmsford and says, while these Labour giants jostle for Starmer's job, the financial markets are making their own judgments. To make matters worse, David Lammy is supporting Burnham. You couldn't make it up, says Dawn. Becca's been in touch and says, if it's a democratic vote, no one should stand aside. Reform UK supporters are losing their minds over Restore not stepping aside, but Reform didn't in Great Yarmouth. Well, Restore Britain is an interesting part of this. We'll talk about that in a second. But I want to get the reaction of Joe Wheeler and Matthew Torbett, who are on the debate desk with me, to what Starmer has been saying about Brexit today. This is what the Prime Minister's been saying.
The way I see it is this. We inherited a really bad Brexit deal that Boris Johnson has negotiated. It was a botched deal. It doesn't work for businesses, doesn't work for the country. What I've done in 2 years is to completely reset our relations with our EU partners, to already have improved on that deal, which is what I did last year. This year we have another summit with the EU where we're going to take a really important leap forward in terms of the relationship, bring us closer to Europe. It's really good for businesses, really good for some of the businesses in this room, really good for the country. So that's what I intend to do, not get lost in a debate about what may happen years down the line. I'm grounded in the job that I'm doing, which is to make sure we are closer to the EU and doing the hard yards of making sure that we establish a relationship to make that right, get that relationship with the EU into a better place. And again, reminding myself, why would we want to do that? For businesses, for the country, for the economy, because it's the best thing. It's in our national interest. So that's where my focus is.
The Prime Minister talking about closer EU ties, but of course Andy Burnham has been talking about that today. He says it's something he wants to do, but not just yet. West Reading says it has to happen sooner. Let's go to the debate desk with Matthew Torbett and Joe Wheeler. Matthew, you're very plugged into these things. What do you make of the battle over Brexit betrayal, Brexit change, closer to the EU? What are your thoughts on this?
Boring. I just
thank you, Joe.
let it lie. I hear what some Labour members say, and lots of them wish we never left, and all the rest of it. I just think we would never get it as good as we had. We'd have to probably accept the euro. We'd have to now go into Schengen, all the stuff that we actually had a bit of an opt-out in at the time. And I imagine there would be some level of punishment. Let's have it right.
Yes.
There's an element of punishment now. I'm not an advocate of rejoining, certainly not in the immediacy or even.
But what do you see how
future.
it's gone into this debate at the moment between Andy Burnham and West Reading? Give us your analysis of that.
So I think West Reading, there'll be no coronation if Andy Burnham gets in. I think West Reading, his team tell me on Friday night, he absolutely definitely has the numbers regardless of what anybody says. I think he is wary that if he was to move before Burnham maybe had a chance, the long spectre and shadow of Andy Burnham would hang over him the same way as done Keir Starmer, and he may not be seen as a sort of legitimate candidate. The party would be annoyed. So I think there's an element of that may be harmful to maybe Andy Burnham to try and stop him maybe winning because it's a large Leave area. I must admit, whenever I go around speaking to people, particularly in areas like Makerfield, I'm going up on Wednesday, nobody talks about Brexit. It's been and gone, and it's only the politicians that wish to breathe life into this argument over and over again. Most people.
Do you agree with that, Joe? Do you think this is a political argument rather than a real people argument?
I totally think it's a political argument because, as you say, most of the time we don't talk about it anymore. We voted Brexit, and okay, it may not have been executed in the best way possible, but that's what we did, and we're working with it now. What I think is interesting is that Andy Burnham said that he wanted to go back into the EU. It was a subject very close to his heart. He said this some time ago, and now he's kind of going, he said, in my lifetime, I'd like to see us, back in the EU. And then it was like, not just at the moment. Then West Reading is pushing him on that. And ultimately, Andy Burnham has to win this seat to actually stand for election in the first place. West Reading is pushing him to say that he wants to be part of the EU. And he knows that Reform actually did very well in this constituency very recently.
So a deliberate strategy by West Reading.
It's nothing to do with the rest of us. It's the Labour Party. It's infighting. Okay. It's infighting.
Well, let's talk about Makerfield with someone who's up in Lincolnshire, actually. It's Mark, who has given us a ring on 0344 499 1000. First call of the evening. Mark, you call in every now and again, and we know that there are some people who'll know you're a Restore Britain supporter. What do you make of their candidate, Mark? And a very good evening to you. You're on with me and also Joe and Matthew.
Hi there, guys. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Joel, Matthew as well.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm very excited by her. I think she looks like a really good candidate. She's in keeping with what Restore Britain is really all about. You know,
realistically, she's not going to win, though, Mark, is she?
I think she has a half decent chance. I think there's a possibility she could. I think I'm quite I'm quite chuffed that nobody's given us a second thought, shall we say. I'm quite happy about that, because the looks on people's faces when it does happen will be so sweet. It really will. Because I think
isn't there a possibility, Mark? Okay, isn't there a possibility that if Restore Britain run I'm not saying people shouldn't stand, I'm not saying that for a second, but we've had people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, saying the Tories shouldn't stand, give Reform a clear run. If you have the Tories standing, if you Restore Britain standing, maybe other parties of the right as well, and Reform UK loses and Andy Burnham wins, that could be something that you'd be less happy about.
Any left-wing party gets in power again, who's going to be happy whatever you vote for? At the end of the day, I think the problem that I have with all this kind of talk is, as I think I mentioned to you in the past, Peter, I'm really not interested in people telling me about splitting the vote, because nobody owns my vote. Reform certainly don't own my vote.
Yeah.
If you want to break it down to the nitty-gritty, you could argue that in 2024, Reform split the Conservative vote. You know, you could go on this route all day, all week long if you want. Because the point is, why should I vote for something that I don't believe is going to do what they're saying they're going to do? I mean, even if there's talk that they're going to be, working with the Tories in any way whatsoever to not stand candidates here, there, and everywhere, like from the Tory side of it, whatever. Even that in itself just would only really confirm what people like myself have been saying all along anyway, that Reform are just essentially a Tory replacement party. I mean, they've filled their ranks with Tories.
Okay, just hold on a second, Mark. I'll just take your fader down just for a second. I'll get a reaction from Joe and Matthew, and then I promise I'll come back to you for your reaction to what they're saying. Joe, what do you make of what Mark said there?
Well, first of all, Mark, hi in Boston. I'll wave to you as I go past tonight on my way back to Lincoln. Obviously, Boston is a local constituency for me, and they voted Brexit. They were very clear on that. They were Leave, and Reform have done stunningly well there. It worries me slightly when I hear the nuance of Restore against Reform, because that is splitting the vote. And at that point, there's a chink in the armour. You've got two parties who are currently considered to be right of centre. And if you've got so many Reform voters, but some of them are now Restore, then obviously that reduces the votes overall against Labour.
Matthew, do you think Andy Burnham is worried about Restore Britain at all, or is he particularly worried about Reform's vote? What do you make of that?
Honestly, I don't think Andy Burnham is worried about stuff like this, and that's not me doing, I'm backing my man. He's very aware, having grown up around this area for the last 30 years, of how people think, why they've moved over to certain parties, why Reform took nearly all the council seats that were up for election in the Wigan area a few weeks ago. I think there's a possibility where you could look at this and go, well, Restore standing will help. On the other side, the Green Party seem adamant they want to stand as well, and people would think that. I think if you have enough courage in your political arguments and you are doing enough, you will win the day. And that's why, my view, I've had people from the Green Party reach out through back channels, but my view is that you don't need to do a deal with the Green Party. You put your argument forward and you take your best case forward, and that's what I would expect. That's what I assume Nigel Farage will want to do. I think the idea of joining together and all the rest of it, I think it dilutes democracy, and people get a bit fed up after a bit.
Mark, what do you make of what Joe and Matthew said there?
Well, I think, if this is her constituency, same constituency as myself, I don't think Tice will be winning it next time round. That I'm pretty sure of. What
makes you so sure?
From the talk from people that are around town, people that I speak to that visit here, because obviously my situation.
I mean, Reform UK are way ahead in lots of different polls. They're far further ahead than Restore Britain.
Reform UK, when they come up against, certainly in constituencies like Boston and Skegness, when they come up against an alternative like Restore Britain, they're going to have some serious problems. That's right. That's what I would say. I mean, if you look at, even if you go and look at the rally over the weekend, you can say what you like about Tommy Robinson, and I have no time for the man. But there was only one party and one leader that crowd was chanting for, and it wasn't Nigel Farage, and it wasn't Reform. That's the reality. As I say, there are things happening out there that people don't really want to either admit or just haven't quite realised yet.
All right.
And we'll see. At the end of the day, we'll see what we see.
We will, of course.
With Makerfield, I don't expect Restore Britain to win this seat.
Okay.
You know, what I'm looking for from this, for a 3-month-old party, is essentially not to embarrass ourselves like Advance UK.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Listen, thank you very much. That's Mark in Lincolnshire.
Peter,
Sorry, you have another
very
thought on?
quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anecdotally, and it's only anecdotally, anyone I know that was voting Reform where I'm from are shifting over to Restore, and I think, honestly, that's the truth. And I do, and it all seems to be since they took former Tories on.
Okay.
And I do wonder if it will turn from something quite online, quite an internet thing, to growing some legs as time goes on. I'm not saying they're going to be challenging the next election, but I do wonder whether they will aim to chop the legs off Nigel Farage at the next election, because it seems to be quite personal with Rupert Lowe.
Do you think Reform
and I
UK
think they could be a force.
Diluted in terms of their message, in your view, Jo?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Yeah, very, very definitely so. I think Restore is coming from behind, and they are saying the things that the electorate want to hear. They obviously had great success in Great Yarmouth.
Well, they're town councillors, not great success. It's 10 councillors. I mean,
from a start, from nothing.
Well, that's true. And some of them were defectors and all the rest of it. Rupert Lowe clearly doesn't like Nigel Farage. He is clearly someone who a lot of people find very charismatic figure. A lot of people like him. Mark likes him. Various other people, and there are many tens of thousands of people who are followers of him. But it is very interesting to see Reform UK, because their poll lead has gone down slightly. Saying that, they've just got 1,500 new councillors, and Restore have got 10. So that's you can't argue with those numbers.
Yeah, but Reform started in the same way, relatively recently, and they've gone from strength to strength. Okay. And all I'm saying is that listening to Mark from Boston, and as I say, this is a constituency I know and understand, and the very fact that he's saying these things, Rupert Lowe speaks common sense to people who understand common sense, and they're liking it. Okay. And if they're liking it, then yes, I think there will be a big swell towards Restore.
Final thought from Matthew on this?
No, I just think keep your eyes on him. There's something to be concerned about, certainly if you're worried about a potential split right vote at the next general election.
We certainly will. Yule in Ballymena has been in touch and says Reform are obviously running scared, wanting Restore and the Tories to stand down in their favour in the by-election. This is pathetic. Stephen Bromsgrove says if a family sits around the breakfast or dinner table with children from the age of 3 and the commandment of thou shalt not steal and its ramifications is talked about, then you embed a value foundation into society. Same goes for thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, honour your father and mother, not bearing false witness, and so on. The only way at the moment, says another texter, is to employ security guards who are 6'4", 5 foot wide, and the authority to detain. We're going to talk in just a second about ADHD and blue badges. We'll talk about that, and there's a very interesting message from Alex. It's a really interesting story about councils that are giving out these blue badges to people with ADHD. We'll talk about that in just a second with Matthew and Jo on the debate desk. Let me know your thoughts, experience, opinions, whatever you want to say about what we've been talking about. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark!
Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely.
Go.
I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel! In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Rob's been in touch from Burnley. He says, good evening, Peter, Joe and Matthew. Hi, Rob. Great debate, especially with Matthew. I wish Labour took a leaf out of his book in terms of discourse. I do think the by-election is reforms to lose. That's why Lisa Nandy's come out against Wes Streeting's EU rants. She's surrounded by reform following the locals. I do think Nigel Farage has to address this donation issue, even if it's for security and above board. In fairness, he has, and in fairness, he did speak to Harry Cole and did a big, long interview about it the other day. He spoke to Beth Rigby about it on Sky News as well. So I think he has answered those questions, but nonetheless, Rob, fair point. Even if it's for security and above board, I'm happy to believe that. However, quoting parliamentary rules isn't the way to answer this. The left will make this campaign purely about Nigel Farage's crypto links, in my opinion. David in Tauranga in New Zealand says this is why the left are so dangerous. They combine like worker ants for the good of the colony to keep the right out. Just look at the French elections. I want to talk now about a group of councils actually handing out blue badges for people with ADHD. This is people with neurodivergent conditions taking advantage of rule changes introduced in 2019 that allow those with hidden disabilities to apply for parking permits for the first time. The change was hailed at the time as allowing people with dementia, Parkinson's and arthritis to obtain the badges, as well as those with severe physical disabilities. Joe Wheeler, you have some thoughts on this?
Can I stop you there?
Yes.
Yes, if somebody's got dementia, they shouldn't be in a car.
Well, although you can be the husband or wife or partner of someone, and they can have the blue badge. So
okay, are you sure about that?
Yes, I am absolutely sure about that. No, that does work. The rules extended to people with anxiety and other invisible mental health conditions, with the number of badges handed out for hidden disabilities trebling from 18,000 a year in 2021 to 55,000 last year. Well, Alex has been in touch. It's a bit of a long message, but I'm going to read it out. This is Alex in Cardiff here. He says, having been diagnosed in my 40s with ADHD, which affected me terribly, and I had very little impulse control. I'm on benefits now, not because of ADHD, but a more chronic condition that it causes immense pain constantly. Alex, I'm very sorry to hear that. What I can say is ADHD has never caused me not to be able to drive or walk long distances or get a bus or a train. It's a complete scam that you need a blue badge if you have ADHD. I would love to hear the reason behind people needing a mobility vehicle, but if the government are giving out blue badges, it really takes the mick out of my mother, who's completely immobile without a Zimmer frame. But young people getting this benefit don't actually realise that 80-year-old people like my mum who can't move far, damaged tubes in her ear, can't balance, vascular dementia, and could really do with a mobility vehicle. It's just wrong. I don't blame people with ADHD. I blame the government, and maybe if the government spoke to people with ADHD, they would realise they don't need a car. I genuinely think society is degrading, and young children with ADHD and parents get a blue badge. It takes away from people who really need a blue badge. Joe, you have ADHD. Do you need a blue badge?
No, I don't. No. I mean, I'm not going to say it wouldn't help. If they could have a little space where all the people with ADHD can park their cars, that would be great, because at that point we can find them again.
Do you never remember where you park your car?
No idea whether I've put it this side of the car park, that side of the car park.
How do you find it?
I just wander around pressing the button for a while and see.
Hope something happens.
Where it is, yeah.
Maybe I need a diagnosis, then that sounds like me.
Can you not find your car either?
Look, I'm terrible for stuff like that. I think I have a really bad attention span. I don't think it's ADHD, and I think that's where certainly younger people have got to be wary. I do think there is an aspect of overdiagnosis, and as I was saying in the break, I think phones have rotted people's attention spans and mindsets, really. Joe will know better than me whether you need a blue badge. I know people that have blue badges that need them. Disabilities in my family, and there are certainly aspects of my family that do need one and don't need one, and therefore do or don't for good reason. And I worry about the impact this has when people see blue badges and assume you're a blagger, and whether that's going to increase with sort of disability hate crime and going, well, you look perfectly fine to me, and therefore there's
abuse. And a lot of disabilities are hidden as well, and people don't know, and there is prejudice against those people. Of
course there is.
And it's similar, it's all sorts of privileges that people get, for example, parent and baby, car parking spaces and things like that. It's very interesting as well that we covered the story a few months ago about Merlin Entertainments, about Thorpe Park and places like Alton Towers and so on, and families with some disabilities say they're upset about changes to eligibility rides, and there's Alton Towers in Staffordshire, Thorpe Park and Surrey unfairly targeting those with a hidden disability is the allegation. Bosses say they're committed to supporting neurodivergent guests and those with mental health needs, and we're listening to feedback about the changes. Joe?
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned parent and child parking spaces. I mean, if we're talking about a supermarket, you've got parent and child. My daughter's got 2 young children, and she gets really cross when people park in those parking spaces and they don't have young children, understandably, because she's trying to take a buggy and deal with, 2 very small people. If it is a physical disability, then a blue badge or whatever enabling badge, I think, is absolutely fine. When it comes to anxiety, I'm really sorry. If you suffer from anxiety and you've managed to drive to the supermarket, then you're fine to go in, get around, get out again. And no, there should be no leniencies given at that stage, because otherwise the whole thing just becomes an absolute fiasco and people just trying to go about their daily shop or weekly shop or whatever are inhibited.
Ruth in Hartlepool has been in touch and says, blue badge for anxiety. In my town, I can't get a blue badge despite using a wheeled walking frame. When I applied, I was told I had to use the disability from my PIP claim, which could be anxiety or anything. I don't have a PIP claim, I don't claim anything, so despite not being able to walk unaided, I can't get a blue badge. Well, what are your thoughts on this? 0344 499 1000. Matthew?
That was always my assumption. Certainly when my best friend was the carer for his uncle. His uncle had Down syndrome and then had lately had dementia. And it was so hard to get a blue badge because they said, but he doesn't drive. And he had to try and get across, no, but I drive him everywhere. So trying to get him into the shop quicker is a lot easier. He's obviously on the decline now as well. And the council would have none of it. And I think we saw a rise in fake ones being bought, and whether it's to sort of put off stuff like that, I don't know, but I don't think it's the right way to go, certainly.
A lot of it is parents of kids with ADHD as well. I mean, how do you feel about that, Joe?
So the child has problems with attention. It's not going to change from one side of the car park to the other. They're not going to be more focused on the shop or less focused on the shop. No, I'm sorry, I don't think it's right. I think it has to be limited to those who actually need physical help and physical access to the shop.
We know as well there are videos on TikTok and so on teaching these parents how best to game the system, and all of that comes in. Tell me your thoughts on it. 0344 499 1000. Just one more story I want to get your thoughts on, Joe and Matthew. School children taught black people cannot be racist to white people. I mean, that's just demonstrably wrong. Children are being taught that black people cannot be racist towards white people as part of an education initiative aimed at countering racism. Teenage pupils are told that black people can be racially prejudiced towards white people, but that this is not racism because that can be exhibited only by those who hold cultural power, such as white people over black people. Joe?
Kind of lost for words, really. I mean, we see this as adults anyway. I mean, there are all sorts of celebratory days, months or whatever through the year, as long as they're not white.
We celebrate Christmas and Easter.
Well, we do, but do we? We now have season's greetings rather than Christmas, and there is this dilution, going on throughout.
I just think the basic concept, Matthew, is that black people can't be racist. It's just nonsense.
Hell of a question to try and fit into 2 minutes.
1.5.
I would say it's harder because I think racism comes with power. And I think if there's obviously racial terms people can use towards me if they're not white. I don't think I would feel upset in the same way as if I was to do it to them, and I think that partly comes through oppression.
But white working class boys are some of the least powerful people in this country.
I agree.
And yes, they can be racist, but people can be racist against them too.
That's where I think it's slightly different. I've certainly been.
But that's racism against white people.
I don't know if it's right. I've never felt somebody's been racist towards me. I've felt people have looked down on me. I certainly feel classism. I certainly feel prejudice, to want of a better word. I think if you look at what Robert Mugabe did in Zimbabwe, that was racist. That was against white people. But I think that comes from power and the fact that he could lord it over them. And there's almost a role reversal of how things maybe have been in the world for many years. I'm worried about teachers talking about it as well, though. I'm expecting my first child in the summer. He will be mixed race. I think it would be appropriate for us at home to have the conversation, and also we need to let children be innocent. At the age of 7, they don't need to know the intricacies of racism. They just appreciate each other for who they are.
Very quick word from Joe.
Just that when I was at school, there was one black person in the school. My brother described him as the guy who wears a green jumper. Never said anything about his colour. Children are not racist until you make them that way.
Okay. We'll talk about this a little bit later on with the journalist and social media star Based on Bougie. Is that how you pronounce her name? Based on Bougie. We'll be speaking to the story a little bit later on. I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, I want to say a huge thank you to Matthew Torbett and indeed Joe Wheeler, the political commentators both. Thank you for joining us on the debate desk, and let me know what you think about anything they have said or I have said or that you want to say. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 7222. Joy in Yorkshire says she's torn between Restore, Reform and Conservative. Advance would have been hands down for me with the genuine UK loving Ben Habib, she says. So whatever your view, do let me know, and we'll have plenty of time for calls, text, tweets and voice notes. 0344 499 1000. Plenty more to come in the next hour.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good evening. This is the Evening Exchange. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you for your company. Keep your calls, text, tweets and voice notes coming in on all the big stories of the day, not just Burnham versus Streeting versus Starmer, but also the big debate that you want to have on that by-election in Makerfield, in Wigan or near Wigan. Also the fact that we're talking about whether black people can be racist. I mean, they can, but children are being taught that they can't. We're talking about that a little bit later on. We're also talking about some extraordinary shoplifting footage and those pro-Palestinian marches over the weekend of the Unite the Kingdom march. We're going to talk in just a second about the terror group behind the London attacks, outed as an Iran proxy. We knew this for some time, but we'll get further detail and analysis from Will Geddes, the security specialist who will be with us. Plenty to discuss this evening. We're also talking about the Nova Festival. There's an exhibition of the horrors that happened there on the 7th of October, and we will be hearing about what's happened in London. A big sign has already been taken down because of security worries. I mean, they're literally talking about a massacre of young people who were at a music festival. It's absolutely disgraceful. We'll talk about all these issues and get your thoughts on them too. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note or a WhatsApp text message to the main number. You can also give me a ring on the main number, which is 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss. Stay with us here on Talk. Dan in Kent's been in touch and says, so what if Andy Burnham wins the by-election because Restore and Reform split the vote? It's called democracy. Starmer or Burnham, same side of the coin of socialism. Certainly something I wouldn't vote for. We need to add the votes of Restore, Reform and the Tories and work out the majority and learn the lessons for the next election. The right must unite, says Dan. And Bob's been in touch on the story we're talking about mobility and people with ADHD or their children having ADHD getting blue badges, so privileged parking. Bob says, I'm always amazed that I've heard that 20% of new car purchases are for the Motability scheme. If that's true, something has gone seriously wrong. I don't think that is true, Bob. Maybe the people behind the scenes could just check that out. I don't think it's 1 in 5 cars, certainly, but there are an awful lot of Motability cars, and we will continue to talk about that. But I want to talk now about what's happened over the weekend, and particularly the attacks on the Jewish community in London and those attacks at Golders Green. The terror group claiming responsibility for the arson attacks previously, the Hezbollah ambulances, that has been officially outed as a proxy of the Iranian state. But let's just take a little look at what happened over the weekend. 2 huge protests in London. One is for the Unite the Kingdom march, about 20 arrests there, and a further 15 or so at the pro-Palestinian march as well. Samara Gill, our reporter, was down there. Let's see a little bit of what she reported.
Elsewhere. So they've just said that they want to hang Tommy Robinson and shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk. It's getting very aggressive.
So that's Samara Gill hearing people shouting about killing Tommy Robinson and like Charlie Kirk. I mean, absolutely dreadful. Those people should have been arrested immediately for that. Many of them shouting that, and the police apparently doing very, very little. Samara also was at a different part of the protest and sent us this as well.
So now we have joined with the pro-Palestine Stand Up to Racism crew. They are chanting anti-fascist, free Palestine. It's going to get rowdy just up here. It's all kicking off.
Samara giving a flavour of what happened there over the weekend. But I want to go back slightly because when we remember the attacks on the ambulances that happened and the synagogues as well as a drone attack on the Israeli embassy, there was a group, an Iranian group, that has claimed responsibility for them. There've been so many anti-Semitic attacks that have happened in the last 6 to 8 months, and certainly since the 7th of October 2023. And this organisation, Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyeh, Hayye, is thought to be behind nearly 20 attacks across Europe in less than 3 months, and it is allegedly operated by a senior Iranian operative. There's a lot I want to talk about in regard to that with Will Geddes, who is a security specialist, who joins me now. Hi, Will.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Now we know that the Department of Justice in the United States has linked the groups claiming responsibility for the Golders Green stabbing, and we must be very careful. Obviously, there's someone who is suspected and has been charged with that, to the IRGC and Hezbollah. Tell us your assessment, aside from that specific issue, tell us your assessment of Hayye, this group. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that how people pronounce it?
People pronounce it in different ways, Peter, but Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyah is their full name, even though people want to obviously abbreviate it, as you rightly said. Now, this group only emerged the 9th of March this year, yet they have been massively prolific, as you've stated, in terms of their attacks, and their attacks have been only towards the Jewish community and US assets. So it's very, very simple in terms of what their agenda is and who their enemy or their perceived enemy is to be. However, the way that these attacks have been changed and altered in terms of their formats and platforms has been pretty expansive, because as you said, their very first attack was against a synagogue in Liège in Brussels, or in Belgium, I should say. Then they went on to attack another synagogue in Rotterdam. They then planned an attack against the Bank of America in Paris, but were intercepted, thankfully, in advance of them doing that. They attacked, obviously, those 4 Jewish community ambulances up in North London. The Israeli embassy, they attempted to launch a drone attack against. You know, they've come along with a lot of different ways to do it. So to us in my world, we knew immediately this was a front organization. This was a proxy and your standard cutout that would be used to basically recruit low-level criminals to carry out these attacks. Now, investigations, Peter, have gone as far as determining an actual chat group on the messenger app Telegram to recruit individuals of whom would be offered anywhere between 200 to 1,000 euro to carry out attacks on their behalf.
Okay, we're just getting some breaking news in regard to Iran and Trump now. As soon as I have it, I'll let you know. But the headline, anyway, is that Trump says he's not doing a scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow. As soon as I have more detail on that, I'll bring it to you and I'll get your reaction to it, Will, when we know a little bit more. But when it comes to these proxy groups, I mean, I'm not sure there are many people who actually realise the threat that Iran poses on our soil. There are so many people who think naively, well, we're not at war in Iran, therefore Iran's not a threat to the UK. What would you say to them?
Well, I'd say it's time to wake up. We look at Iran, look at all the various different terrorist groups that are knowingly connected to them, and that's just the ones knowingly connected. And that includes Hamas, who carried out the atrocious October the 7th attacks, the Houthis, which had been launching attacks via drones at shipping vessels in the Red Sea. They are connected to Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're also connected to the Iraqi Hezbollah arm, which is the group believed to be connected to Ha'i, and the ones that this individual that was arrested by the US federal agencies, that is a commander within the Iraq Hezbollah, has claimed that, yes, they are involved in obviously setting up Ha'i and providing them with the finance to be able to undertake these attacks. Now, you look at those, the demonstration that carried out on the weekend for the pro-Palestine mob. There's a lot of Iranian money behind that, Peter. And people have to understand that, yes, there will be the individuals that have their own vested interest or want to sort of wage their own agenda. But there will be many there that would have been financed and sponsored by the Iranian regime, whether that be directly or indirectly, to attend and turn up.
Yeah, I'm just reading, sorry, on that breaking news that Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE have asked Trump to hold off on the planned military attack of Iran. And President Trump told the New York Post that Iran knows what's going to be happening soon. He has not opened any concessions for Tehran after his latest response to the peace talks. The president made the comments to the New York Post in a brief phone call. I can tell you that they want to make a deal more than ever because they know what is going to be happening soon. But he has said on Truth Social he is not going to be doing the attack tomorrow. It's interesting, certainly in the context of what you're talking about, Will, that President Trump is still saying essentially he thinks a deal can be done. I wonder what, if any, effect you think that will have, particularly in regard to what you're talking about.
Well, it's a good point, Peter. We know that Qatar has been doing the back channel negotiations on behalf of the United States with Iran and acting as an intermediary, whereas many of the other nations, Oman, Pakistan and Egypt, have been very much at the front door. So if Qatar is in agreement that obviously this attack shouldn't go forward, this may put a halt on those proxy activities. But the problem that you have, Peter, is some of these proxies become autonomous. They become their own elements. And this happened specifically for Iraqi Hezbollah when they ran a similar outfit or operation to Ha'i in Syria. And that group decided to continue regardless, and they forgot who their paymasters were and started waging their own sort of, if you like, campaigns. So I think there could be a ceasing of activities temporarily. But again, remember, if you think about Iran as the bank, they're the ones giving out the money, channeling cash through various different mediums. I know there's another subject you may want to talk to me about, which is the financing people smugglers.
Let's talk about that right now, Will, actually,
sure.
because there's a big BBC investigation, and fair play, we do occasionally, well, more than occasionally, criticise the BBC. This is a proper investigation about people smugglers directing migrants to pay for illegal channel crossings under a network of UK-registered businesses. Secret filming was done at a shop in southeast London, telling an undercover researcher that nearly £3,000 in cash could be deposited with them and sent to a smuggler in France. You put your money here. If your friends reach the UK, you shouldn't come back, they were told at a mobile phone store in Woolwich. And this is a 3-month investigation about UK companies' bank accounts facilitating small boat crossings, and a leading expert in criminal finance told us he'd not seen before. There are many, many worries as well, Will, and you're quite literally the expert, about how much cash is going through many, many high street shops, particularly shops that may not necessarily have many things that you can purchase for £3,000, and lots of money laundering that may or may not be going on. What's your assessment of this?
Well, Peter, since 2020, there has been a massive increase in cash, if you like, provisioned companies and businesses, and a vast majority of those are on our high streets. These are the vape shops. These are the American candy shops. These are the ones that are doing mobile phone repairs, where a lot of the trading is actually going via cash. Now, over half of those in many areas across the United Kingdom have already been confirmed to be fronts for organised crime. Now, if you look at some of these shops, I would tell you that they're not just going to be taking money that will be passed on to people traffickers and a larger OCG or organised crime group network. There will be other illicit and illegal activities that these shops will be involved in, and most of which, as you say, Peter, is money laundering. And money laundering, it can be easily facilitated through a company that is operating. And again, it could be a mobile phone shop, could be a vape shop. They're going to be independents. It could be an independent fast food restaurant. These are quite obviously the most utilised covers for organised crime.
I want to talk a little bit about shoplifting, and there's been some extraordinary footage. Some of our viewers and listeners, I think, perhaps thought it was from Clapham, but Clapham was a few weeks ago. This is actually from Ilford in Essex, a branch of JD Sports. I'll narrate it for people who are listening, but the visuals are really quite astonishing. So if you can watch on YouTube or your connected TV, it's well worth a look. This is in JD Sports. You see really, really quickly a group of, I would say, probably fewer than 10 young men in hoodies going out with lots and lots of equipment, and workers, particularly women, actually running after them, trying to get the footage back. There's a very small woman actually in a hijab who's grabbing one of them by the hoodie to try to get the actual hood of the hoodie to try to get that, get all of that back. And Will, we're seeing time and time again people who are actually as brave and useful and helpful as that young woman in the hijab there are actually being penalised for their actions. This is a growing crime and very, very difficult for many retailers.
It is a growing crime, and to be honest, I would advise the shop staff not to get involved. You know, they're not going to be necessarily protected by their company. Not within their job description to do this. And to be honest, many of these retailers, if this threat is going to continue, it gets to a point where there's about, for many high street retailers, Peter, there's about a 20 to 30% attrition for loss through things like theft or shoplifting. But again, we're seeing certainly the propagation of these shoplifting steaming gangs, which is fundamentally what it is. The steaming gangs which are going in there and grabbing everything, overwhelming the staff, probably overwhelming the security as well. And let's go to the security. The security guards, they're going to be making anywhere between £12 and £14 an hour. They're not paid danger money, Peter. You know, I'm at the other end of security where, you know, I've got guys who will get very much stuck in. Yes. But retailers don't have the money to pay for that.
And we know that there are a lot. I mean, there was a security guard in Paddington last year who was stabbed in the neck when he tried to intervene. We also know people who aren't security guards, who are workers in the shop, who were sacked because it's a breach of policy to even ask people, you know, are you going to pay for that, or would you like a basket to pay for your goods, that sort of thing. So your advice would be to those people who work in shops not to intervene, which would essentially lead to the question, I suppose, what is the point of having security staff there? Maybe they're a deterrent, but in this case, clearly not, Will.
Well, no, I agree, Peter. I mean, certainly to go to the staff point and about policy and about them not getting involved. Well, number one, they're not paid danger money either. They need to be able to come into their work environment. And we've got to also remember that if you've had a large group of aggressive men or individuals, it could be women amongst them, it's not exclusively male, that will come in and literally raid the shop like locusts, that's a pretty terrifying experience for some young shop worker, male or female. Now, in terms of security, as much as the retailers don't want to spend on it, I honestly would be suggesting that they do. I think they've got to take a stronger stance. I mean, there's a story that where I got involved by a particular retail group to assist with some far more qualified security personnel, let's call it, to deal with a steaming gang that were targeting a specific area. Now, obviously, I can't go into detail on air as to what happened, Peter, but let's just say they never came back. And I think, unfortunately, with the limited police resources out there, even if there is CCTV of these individuals, and that young lady with the hijab on that actually pulled, one of the looters' face covering away to hopefully identify him to CCTV. Yes, it will help the police with intelligence to determining hopefully who that gang is, and most of the time the police do know who those gangs are. But it's putting it to the CPS, getting them prosecuted, and a suitable punishment being delivered to them.
Okay. Will, thank you. That is the security expert, Will Geddes, joining us there. Thank you to him. And we'll take some calls, text, tweets and voice notes after the break. If you do want to get your voice on the air, 0344 499 1000. I know that there was a poll about an hour ago. I think it was Sky News said that Andy Burnham is the clear favourite for a Labour leader in the poll of party members. Maybe you have some thoughts on that. We know that there is another polling company saying 55% chance of him losing that particular by-election, but 47% of party members of the Labour Party want him as their leader. Will they get a chance to vote for him? I know people want to talk about shoplifting and about the Unite the Kingdom march as well. Before all that, let me tell you about the FIFA World Cup 2026. It's almost here, and thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at talkSPORT are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on the 17th of June with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets and your very own Adidas official match ball trianda. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Are you ready to get that winning feeling? Here is how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
not a wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely.
Go.
I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true, yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you very much indeed to everybody who has been in touch. We will take some of the messages in a second, but I want to go to Mark and Carlisle first about shoplifting, which is clearly something on your mind. Mark, thanks for the call on 0344 499 1000. What would you like to say this evening?
There's a reason them brave girls in Illicit were grabbing the clothes back, etc., because there's no sell-by date, where in some shops, when the food has got a sell-by date, their losses and waste food far outweighs
Good point.
Shoplifting. No, we've filmed it. I was filming the other week, and there was three wheelie bins full of joints of meat from one little store, not a big supermarket, in one local area. And there's three of these stores in the actual area. We've monitored it for about 3 months. We reckon in that 1 month we filmed it, there was £11,000 worth of waste from 3 stores.
That's incredible.
I won't mention the name it is. And I've got it all on film. It's all. So what we should do, I'll do it for free with talkTV. We'll go out there to this place. We'll take a chef with us, and we'll prove that we can cook the food and we'll eat it. Because I ate it for a week after that.
Well, best before dates are sort of a matter of opinion in a lot of ways, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but there's too much waste. So when you're losing 11 grand in 3 stores, but only say £1 grand in shoplifting, it doesn't. So just let them take it.
Yes.
The waste far outweighs it. And about 17 years ago, I did a thing with the BBC. I'm a filmmaker, and we exposed the same thing then. But I won't get in the building today in the BBC, but that's another story. But
well, listen, thanks for your thoughts on them. Thanks for telling us your experience too. Sammy's in London, and Sammy, I think you were at the Unite the Kingdom march. Is that correct?
Yes, I was. It is out of a subject, but I was, looking at the previous clip with Kevin talking about the march.
Yes.
I'm an Iranian. I went there with my family, my wife and my kid. I had my big, large Persian flag in my hand. I saw nothing bad love, nothing bad.
You felt very welcome there. You felt very supported.
Absolutely, it was one of the best days I had for the last 30 years in living in UK. And listen, I wish I could answer Kevin's question about what we're facing in UK. Look, we as a Persian, I live here for 30 years, but I saw and I go there once a year. I've got my old mum there. And
does she lives in Iran? Does she?
She lives in Iran.
Okay.
Yeah. And I happened to be there on 8th and 9th of January. I came back on 13th of January, and the 2 days massacre. I was there.
Goodness me. Yeah.
I was lucky. I escaped. I came to Dubai the next day on that Sunday. The fact is still, having nightmares, and it is shocking. This is what I'm going to wrap this up. You don't want to go to my story because it's really...
Well, it's interesting, Sammy, certainly. And I wonder, in the UK, do you feel people are supporting you? There are a lot of people who don't believe there should be military action in Iran, for example. What do you think, especially given you've seen what you've seen and the experience you've had?
Let me tell you my thought.
Yes. And
somebody who goes there on a regular basis, got family there.
Yeah.
Look, we are people there. The truth will come out. Let this internet to come back. Look, even since January, when internet came back, it was all internet is completely different story over there. It's madness. Let the internet come back. You will see the footage. The truth will come out. People came out. People chanted. Even right now, people are scared.
I mean, I have, Sammy, just
happy.
Yes.
They're happy.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to wrap this up with me. I look at it this way: my kid needs surgery. My people need surgery. People, this cancer named IRGC, named Ayatollah.
Yes.
This cancer need to go.
Yes.
Now I don't care who gonna operate on my kid, whether it's Netanyahu or whether it's Trump. I don't care.
Okay.
We need help. We need help.
And listen, I think you speak for a lot of people within that. Can I just ask you one more question, Sammy, just before you go, about the Unite the Kingdom march? There are a lot of people, not really on this channel, but on others, who will say, you know, the Unite the Kingdom march is, you know, it's a lot of people who hate people who aren't white, and it's racist, and it's this and it's that and the other. That is clearly not your experience and the experience of many people who were there.
I went there. I left early. I was there on halfway. Tommy was talking, and I left. I'm a big supporter of Tommy. I've always been. On my way back with my family, we happened to pass a few of those people who, you know, cover their face, and I saw nothing but hate. They have no idea. Look, Sharia law came to Iran 47 years ago. We've been living under Sharia law until today. It's still today. Sharia law is on your doorstep. It's already here. And believe me, this will end well for Persian people. And believe me, this is going to change history. We're going to change history. The truth always will come out.
Sammy, thank you.
And I hope British people will understand that.
You've spoken really well, Sammy, and it's been really interesting to talk to you, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. Alex in Cardiff says, I'm not a supporter of Saudi Arabia, but they have no shoplifting because your hand gets cut off. I don't support capital punishment, but it's very effective. There is no punishment or law involvement, so there's no deterrent. But without this, the problem will only get worse. Ernie says, I've recently got back from Abu Dhabi. In the malls and the hotel lobbies, there are jewellers that have rings, bracelets and necklaces on display that are not behind glass. You can pick them up and try them on. Some of them have price tags of hundreds of thousands of pounds. The first time I saw that, it blew me away. Simon in West Lancashire says, racism, we're talking about racism and whether black people can be racist. Racism is officially defined as follows: prejudice, discrimination or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Sounds to me like the leftist liberal apologists are ramping up the imperial history, shaming and imposed self-loathing of assumed white privilege. Apart from being utterly insane, it's coming across as a little patronising. Great show, says Simon. David says, Matthew Torbett thinks power leads to racism. Rubbish. It is powerlessness that often leads to racism. The acquisition of power can occur later, of course, at which point it should be used for the expression of racism. When people are powerless, they become hopeless and helpless and ineffective. The pathology of powerlessness is dangerous enough in itself, but also paves the way to the tyranny of power, he says, citing quite a number of people who've been writing in the British Journal of Social Psychology. Another person says the definition of racism in the dictionary has nothing to do with the colour of skin. It's defined by ethnicity or race, and as someone thinking they're superior to someone of a different race or ethnicity. Sim in Wanstead says, you have Base and Bougie on. She's brilliant and should run for Prime Minister. She's great. Yeah, she's coming on a little bit later on. Before we go to the break, I want to hear a voice note from Rob on Restore Britain splitting the vote. This is something we've been talking about in regard to Makerfield. This is what Rob thinks.
Good evening, Peter. Regarding Rupert Lowe and Restore, I would never vote for him. The only reason he has set up his party is so he can get revenge on Nigel and try and take votes away from him. He's a nasty man, and I just think it's all a big act with him. He has no chance of winning an election. So voting for him is splitting the vote, and what we could end up with is a leftist Green Labour alliance. And then what? Can you imagine that for the next 5 years? No.
I can't imagine it. I think it's not out of the realms of possibility. I'd rather not imagine it, but that's where we are. Thank you for that, Rob. Elisa in Chelmsford has been in touch and said, I certainly won't be shifting to Restore Britain. I've received abuse and seen a lot of nastiness from Restore Britain voters on social media. It's further to the right of reform, and I'm seriously concerned about the calibre of some of their members. It would be political suicide to move in that direction, in Elisa's opinion. Laurie said your guest earlier on, this was Joe Wheeler, your guest suggested that Christmas has been diluted. She was 200% correct. To British Christians, Christmas is important, perhaps not to you, as this comment was dismissed. Why, says Laurie. I didn't dismiss it. I simply said we celebrate Christmas. Certainly there has been some movement to call it season's greetings and things like that, and I don't like that. And I am a massive fan of Christmas. Christmas is my favourite time of the year. It's my favourite day of the year, and I wouldn't want that to be diluted at all. I'm agnostic. I don't have Christian faith, but it is an incredibly important Christian festival and should be celebrated by everybody in this country. I know Muslims who celebrate Christmas and give each other gifts, for example. One person says, your female guest Jo mentioned her daughter getting so cross with people without children parking in dedicated parents' spaces. Now her daughter's children are a lifestyle choice. Disabilities, even hidden ones, are not. Les says, is it just me, or do I suspect nobody can be bothered to listen to our so-called Prime Minister? He played the last piece of media. I can't even remember what he said. It sounded like drivelling waffle about the EU giving some panacea of gold paved roads all leading to a junket in Brussels. Same old rubbish. And a final tweet for the meantime from Liz, who says, we have 4 kids, all of autism, 3 of them also have ADHD. Yes, they get disability, but boy, have they been hard work. I suffered for a stroke at 41. I'm 52 now. One of my boys is looking for work. One is at college and one is clever with computers. Well, Liz, it sounds as if your sons, you have a lot to be proud of with your sons, and there is, I'm very, very happy to read out your message, and I wish you well, and indeed your family well. Some breaking news now. Trump says he's cancelled a US attack on Iran planned for Tuesday at the request of Gulf allies. This is more detail on what we were talking about 15 or 20 minutes ago. Donald Trump says he's holding off a military attack on Iran planned for Tuesday at the request of Gulf states as serious negotiations are now taking place. This is his post on Truth Social. He'd been asked to do so by the leaders of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. He said he'd been informed that a deal would be made, that it is a deal that is very acceptable to the US, adding there would be no nuclear weapons for Iran. Let's see. But he warned that the US military would be prepared to go forward with a full large-scale assault on Iran at a moment's notice if no acceptable deal is reached. Iran has not publicly commented on Trump's latest statement. Well, speaking of what has been going on with that military action, and particularly in regard to Israel, which has of course been involved, we will talk about the Nova Music Festival exhibit in London. It's had its main sign removed after police request due to the potential for anti-Semitic incidents. I mean, the anti-Semitism in this city and in this country is completely out of control. We'll speak to Nicole Lampert, the indefatigable campaigner and journalist against anti-Semitism. She will be with us in just a second. I want your views too on all of this. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, there's lots to talk about, including the Nova Music Festival exhibit in London. Now, this is a major new exhibit, and it is about the Nova Music Festival and what happened on the 7th of October. I was very privileged in September to go to the site of the Nova Music Festival, and we remember, of course, on the 7th of October 2023, it was the site of many young people, completely innocent young people, going to a music festival, hundreds of them, who were murdered, who were maimed, who were raped, who were burned, who were terrorised by Hamas terrorists. And I'll be brutally honest with you, I was on a trip with our next guest, actually, Nicole Lambert, and Nicole joins us now. Nicole, a very good evening to you.
Hi, Peter.
I don't know if you know this, I can't remember if I told you when we were in Israel together, but I found it very, very difficult at the Nova Music Festival, the tributes, the incredible photographs and tributes that people had there, the amount of information. I sort of could put up with it for about 15 or 20 minutes. I was so emotional, I actually got back on the bus because I couldn't really handle it. It was just so heartbreaking what had happened there, and some of the videos and some of the information that we saw was just really, really moving. Now we're in a situation that there is an exhibition, it's going around the world, it's in London, but the main sign has been removed at the request of the Metropolitan Police following concerns about anti-Semitism and terrorism. Yet again, we're seeing dreadful anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, Israel hatred on our streets, Nicole.
Well, exactly. We're seeing the same sort of murderous hatred that led to the attack on October 7 now hitting our streets. The press launch of the Nova exhibition was today, and I went to it. There were lots of police outside. There was a big security element to it. Anyone who wanted to go weren't told until just before they got their tickets, so just 24 hours before where it was. But for anyone who wants to understand what happened on October 7 and have an inkling of what happened next, then I would suggest going. It's on for about, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. And it's called the Nova exhibition, and it's unlike when you and I went, Peter, and we just saw the deadly. Well, I suppose it's kind of like a cemetery. What we went to, where just people. There were the pictures of all the 400 odd that were killed there. At the Nova exhibition, you get a feeling. It's almost like you were living a little bit through what happened. So you see them all partying up until 6:29 in the morning when the sun rose, and that's when the first alerts happened because Hamas were sending their rockets over into Israel, and so you have a kind of element where it's almost like, obviously it's nothing like being at Nova, but you see the kind of uprooted tents, and then you see on one hand you see telephone footage from some of the survivors or some of those who didn't survive, but you see their last messages to their families, and then you see concurrently on other video the Hamas and other militants coming through and trying to round up these people. And it brought home to me that so none of these people, even if they had been in the army, none of them were in the army, and they were certainly all unarmed. That Hamas and then the people that followed them from Gaza, they were deliberately targeting these unarmed people. And that's something that really has to be driven home, because I think that's why it had such an impact on Israelis, because both the people at Nova and the people that were in their safe rooms in the different kibbutzim, and obviously we went to one where the Bibas family were killed, were taken and then killed, the tiny babies. So it's a reminder that Hamas and the others, they went after civilians.
Absolutely.
They didn't, of course, they did go after the army as well, but the civilians, they wanted to kill everybody they could get their hands on.
Completely. And the Bibas family home was something that was just so emotional when we went there at Kibbutz Nir Oz. I remember that as well, very, very vividly. I wonder the exhibition sounds as if it's done really, really well. What do you make of the Metropolitan Police's actions here, the request for the sign to be removed? Nicole?
Well, that's the state of where we are in this country, isn't it? It says nothing about Israel really, or Hamas or anything like that. It's about where we are in this country. And there's a report that's come out today about anti-Semitism in the schools as well, being perpetuated at like 5-year-olds, drama teachers encouraging people to do Nazi salutes around the one Jewish student, it being encouraged by teachers who are wiping Israel off the map.
Appalling.
And it's all just appalling, and obviously we saw the big demonstrations at the weekend. We saw the latest pro-Palestine one. Although I was speaking to a Palestinian friend yesterday, and he feels very strongly that it's nothing to do with Palestine. Really, it's just a whole other hate movement where they are propelled by murderous anti-Semitism.
To say nothing of the fact that the terror group behind some of the London attacks has been outed as an Iran proxy. We were talking to Will Geddes about that a little bit earlier on. You've been following this too.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we have two really, I suppose, two lots of Islamic extremists that we have to be afraid of, and one is kind of being pushed by Iran, and that's why sort of a lot of Iranians that I speak to, as well as Jews, and as well as just everyone else, are calling for the IRGC, which is the Islamic regime, to be prescribed. And even though that was in the government manifesto, it still hasn't happened. So that's one source of worry. And then the other is coming from the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS, and all of those. And so we've seen quite a lot of murderous attacks, both in the UK and in Australia, for example, that were ISIS inspired.
Yeah.
So it's a multifaceted worry and danger.
Nicole, thank you very much for your analysis. As always, Nicole Lambert there, journalist, campaigner against anti-Semitism, brings us up to date with everything that's happening. I mean, the Nova Music Festival exhibition, something that I think so many people should go to. If you're not in London or you can't get to London, there is a brilliant documentary called We Will Dance Again. It was on the BBC iPlayer. Can we just check, actually, if that documentary is still on the BBC iPlayer? It's called We Will Dance Again. I'll just ask the people behind the scenes just to check. It is superb, and it is a very, very difficult watch. I had to do it in 2 sittings because it was just so disturbing, exactly of what happened at the Nova Music Festival and what those Hamas terrorists did. And it is still online, so you can get it. It's called We Will Dance Again. I highly recommend it. I think the Nova Music Festival exhibit is an incredible thing. As Nicole was saying, I couldn't get to the press launch today. I was invited to it. I just couldn't get there. I had a few other things to do, but I hope to go there over the next few weeks when it's on. There's some breaking news, and that is that officers are in attendance at an active shooter situation, as it has been called, at a mosque in San Diego, which has left at least 2 people dead. Heavy police presence remains at the scene outside the Islamic Center at Ekstrom Avenue in Claremont in San Diego. The mayor, Todd Gloria, has said there is an active shooter situation and encouraged people to stay away from the area. Todd Gloria, the mayor, said, "I'm aware of the active shooter situation at the Islamic Center of San Diego in Claremont, and I'm continuing to receive updates from law enforcement. Emergency personnel are on the scene and actively working to protect the community and secure the area. Please avoid the area and follow instructions from public safety officials. We will share updates as more information becomes available." We will, of course, bring you all the detail on that. That is an active shooter situation, as it has been called, at a mosque in San Diego. At least 2 people are dead. We will have more on that as the show goes on. We'll take some more calls, text, tweets and voice notes next if you want to get your voice on the air. Whatever your opinion is, whether you think I'm talking nonsense, whether you think everything I say is gospel, or somewhere in between, which is probably more likely, please do give me a shout. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Stay with us.
wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark!
Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely.
I'm
loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true, yes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, we are keeping a very close eye on what is happening in San Diego. Officers in attendance at an active shooter situation at a mosque in San Diego, which has left at least 2 people dead. We'll bring you any updates from that as soon as we get them between now and 10 o'clock. I'm sure Petri Hoskin will be monitoring it as well between 10 and 1. She is here. Thank you to everybody who has been in touch, particularly on ADHD, actually. Ben in Surrey says, I was diagnosed with adult ADHD at 49 years old. I now take medication for it. What's more confusing, being told you have a hidden disability and need a blue badge, or being told that you have a superpower that has a place in this world? Lewis Hamilton has ADHD and dyslexia, so when is he getting his blue badge? Dawn in Chelmsford says, we have a 2-tier society. On one side, people take every benefit they can, plus stealing and fraud. Then the other side pays for it all. Melanie in Staffordshire says, dark-skinned people can be racist or prejudiced towards pale-skinned people. I could write you a book about my experiences, to be honest. I've met many great people on buses, though. Okay. Another person says, please have one of your interviewers, if they get access to Andy Burnham, to ask the following question. If you're successful in getting back to Parliament and are successful in taking over from Starmer, will you put on record that you will not take us back into the EU until you've put it as a manifesto commitment in the next general election? Well, let's see. I would hope certainly that one of us will have an interview with Andy Burnham before he becomes leader of the Labour Party, if that is indeed the case, and that would be a very, very good question. Jeff has given us a ring from Minneapolis St. Paul in Minnesota, and has given us a ring on, well, presumably with a few extra digits, 0344 499 1000. Jeff, you have some thoughts on restore versus reform?
Yeah, Peter, how's it going?
Hi there.
Hi. First of all, I'm not a citizen of your great nation, so I appreciate the opportunity to share opinion.
You're still welcome to give us your opinion on it as a bird's eye view from elsewhere.
Right, as much as you want to take, right. But as far as I'm concerned, watching from way over here, I remember seeing Nigel Farage give an interview a while back, and I don't remember who the interviewer was, but he was asked if he wanted to get rid of 100% of the illegal immigrants in the country. Mm-hmm. He quickly answered no, and then said it wasn't possible. Then the interviewer asked him again, but even though it's not possible, is it your intention to? And he said no again. Then I heard him just recently say that if a reform government is elected, that he will get rid of 100% of the illegal immigrants. So he's so to me, he's an unprincipled man, and I think the great people of Great Britain deserve Rupert Lowe over Nigel Farage.
Well, certainly Nigel Farage has changed his mind on this. I mean, how big is Rupert Lowe in America, or is it just something you follow because you're interested in our politics, or where does your interest kind of stem from, Jeff?
Well, yeah, Rupert Lowe, when he put out his interview, when he put out that YouTube video that went so crazy, yeah, he became kind of a legend over here, a little bit. People who keep even a little bit in touch with what's going on over there. So.
Okay. What do you think of the job your own?
I'm sorry.
What do you think of the job your own president is doing over there, Jeff?
Oh, I'm happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy with the job he's doing. Sometimes you can't listen to the stuff he says and just pay attention to the stuff he does, and you'll be pretty happy.
Okay. Jeff, good to talk to you. That's Jeff in Minneapolis, St. Paul in Minnesota in the United States. We have a bit of an update from the scene of the Islamic Center at San Diego. Is still active but contained, according to the city's police department. They've put out a statement there. The police department said it has significant resources on the scene and has established a reunification location. That's where people can come together and pick up essentially people who were within the zone there where the active shooter was. So it's active but contained. So that usually means that they have cornered or at least contained to some degree where the shooter is. This is, if you're just joining us, that is officers in attendance at an active shooter situation at a mosque in San Diego. At least 2 people are dead there. We will, of course, bring you any updates on that as time goes on. Let me go to Caroline in London, who has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. I know you want to talk about the protests at the weekend, Caroline.
Yes, hi Peter.
Hi
Can you
there.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Hi, yes I can. Go ahead. Yes.
Oh, okay. Please bear with me. I am quite emotional. So
just you take your time, Caroline. Just you take your time.
Thank you. So obviously we all know that facial recognition was used on the United Kingdom and not the Nakba. There's been videos everywhere of what happened at the Nakba. They were masked up to the hilts. Everything was anti-Zionism, Jew hatred. But not only that, they said stab Tommy Robinson and his supporters like Charlie Kirk. Come on, Mussolini. Come on, Hitler.
Well, I mean, we have footage of that ourselves, actually. And, I mean, we played that earlier on today and earlier on in the show, in fact. And if the facial recognition was used within that, even if they can see a little bit of the people's faces, justice would, in theory, be done. I mean, that is very clearly incitement. That is very clearly talking about someone being killed and who should be killed in those people's opinion. And that is against the law. It's really, really straightforward.
Yeah, well, it's not straightforward in the United Kingdom anymore, Peter. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You're right.
And what Starmer did on Friday was unnecessary, uncalled for, and he is creating hatred. Now, I don't know if I've only just tuned in to talk. I was stuck. I couldn't get on because I absolutely adore your show, and I'm so thankful to you.
Well, even if you're watching a little bit of it or listening to a little bit of it, Caroline, that is always appreciated.
Well, at 2 o'clock in the morning, did you hear about the Jewish man that was violently attacked in Golders Green?
Yes, I did. I've actually been sent various bits of information on this from various people around Golders Green. Yeah.
Well, a 22-year-old man was attacked last night at around 2 a.m. He stepped outside his apartment to make a phone call as he didn't want to disturb his flatmates. While speaking Hebrew, 5 masked men walking nearby heard him and suddenly began chasing him. They caught him, dragged him across the road, brutally beat him up until he was close to losing consciousness. They tore his clothes, threw away his shoes, and shouted abuse at him in Arabic.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a neighbour heard him, etc., etc. This is down to this government, this Prime Minister, and this Parliament. And something needs to be done. Parliament, other parties need to do something. We need a state of emergency. This is absolutely, I don't have words, Peter. I'm so distressed.
Well, Caroline, I don't want you to be distressed. And if you are distressed, please, if you want to come off the line, that's okay. I don't want you to be distressed. But what is absolutely clear, Caroline, is that anti-Semitism in this country is completely out of control. My phone was buzzing with people in Golders Green and elsewhere sending me bits of information about what was going on and what had happened to that man, and indeed very graphic photographs of what had happened to him. And it is an appalling attack, and these are becoming so common, these anti-Semitic attacks, people talking Hebrew, speaking in Hebrew and being attacked. We know, we've seen what happened at Heaton Park, we've seen what happened in Golders Green, we've seen what happened to the Hatzalah ambulances, we've seen the hate that was on that march at the weekend as well. Towards so many people, not just Jewish people, but others as well. But anti-Semitism completely out of control. We've seen the Nova Music Festival as well. We've just been talking about that. How even a sign, even an advertisement to look at an exhibition about one of the worst anti-Semitic attacks since the Holocaust, which happened in Israel, even a sign to show that, the Metropolitan Police are saying, please take that down, it'll be a target.
No, absolutely. But what do we, and you're right, it's not just Jews, so many people who are not Jewish have been murdered. And then, these attacks on the United Kingdom, it's nothing to do with Tommy Robinson, because that march was so peaceful and joyous. And, you've got people like Piers Morgan spouting absolute lies and gaslighting. You've got Sky News saying there were 60,000 people at the march. I mean, it's just abhorrent.
Okay.
Everywhere you look. And I don't know what we can do now, apart from, maybe I shouldn't say this. We just say, we're not paying taxes anymore. We're not paying you anything. This country's out of control.
Well, listen, I know a lot of people feel that way, Caroline, and I totally get that. I mean, civil disobedience is something that has been, of course, incredibly effective previously. I'm going to keep paying my taxes, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to break the law, but Caroline is absolutely entitled to her opinion. I'm sure Piers Morgan as well would deny that he has been lying or gaslighting anybody, but certainly there are very strong opinions about his opinions, essentially, and he's someone who's no stranger to a strong opinion. We're going to talk in just a second to the broadcaster and social media star Based and Bushy on school kids being taught that black people cannot be racist to white people. That is going to be a very interesting discussion. I want your views on it too. 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about in the last hour of the programme, so stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good evening. This is the Evening Exchange. I'm Peter Cardwell. It's just gone 9 o'clock. There's so much to talk about, including children being taught that black people can't be racist towards white people. We'll talk about that with Based and Bushy, who is an influencer and commentator. We'll talk to her in just a second. Loads more to discuss as well in regard to the construction sector. Is it in crisis thanks to Labour's 1.5 million home building target? Is that now impossible? We'll speak to Steve Mulholland, one of my favourite guests. And parents and guardians of children who break the law now facing prison themselves. There's so many different debates this evening. We've covered politics a little bit. Some people want to talk about that. Some people want to talk about what's going on in Ireland. Andy Burnham as well. And of course, we're keeping a close eye on what is happening in America. Officers in attendance at an active shooter situation at a mosque in San Diego. We will talk about that in just a second. Loads to discuss. I want to hear your views too, of course. Loads of time for calls between now and 10 o'clock. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note or a WhatsApp text message, or give me a ring. In fact, all on the main number, 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. Thanks so much for your company here on Talk. Well, this is an interesting story. Pupils as young as 7 say they have responsibility to be aware of white privilege. Children are being taught that black people cannot be racist towards white people as part of an education initiative aimed at countering racism. Teenage pupils are being told that black people can be racially prejudiced towards white people, but this is not racism, because that can be exhibited only by those who hold cultural power, such as white people over black people. And as I say, children as young as 7 being taught that white people are likely to be privileged because of the colour of their skin. I wonder what you think about that and whether it's right that we're teaching children these things. Based in Bougie is a journalist and broadcaster and is here in the studio. Lovely to see you. First time that I've interviewed you. Great to see you in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
What do you think of this story?
Well, my dad would always tell me the best way to end racism is to stop talking about race. That's the best way. But what we keep doing is we keep continuing this conversation about white people this, white people black, that, sorry. How about we just stop talking about it in general? And to sit here and say that you cannot be racist towards a white person, being racist means you are being critical or rude or disrespectful towards a race. When you're saying you can't be racist towards white people, you're saying white people are not a race. So what are they? Subhumans? Animals? I think it's extremely derogatory, demonic, and just disgusting in my eyes to assume that white people cannot be a race. And another thing I notice is that they always pin white and black people against each other. They never really do it with Spanish people, Indians. It's always white and black. And I think the reason why they do this is because culturally, well, now these days black culture has fallen off, but we used to have so much more in common in terms of our Christian values, in terms of just our conservativeness, especially Africans were extremely conservative. So they're trying to pin us apart because when we come together and we realise we have so much in common, that would be a threat. But I think, and not only that, the fact that they're doing it in schools, like these are babies. Babies don't see colour. Like, why are we stressing to them that there's white this and there's white that and there's privilege this? Is absolutely disgusting, and it's just another form of Marxism.
What do you think about white privilege as an idea?
I don't think it exists, honestly. I don't believe it exists. I think that if, especially in the West, everyone has the same opportunity. You and I can both go to school. You and I can both use the same fountain. We can both use the same toilet tissue. There's nothing you can do that I can't do. And if you want to be successful in life, you just have to work hard. But what we're teaching people, especially black children, is that they have to nag and they have to be victims and they have to ask for handouts or they have to complain about white privilege and racism rather than just getting to work.
So that's something I worry about. It's not just about black children, but there are many people in our society who I think are told you're a victim. You can never achieve what other people can. Therefore, you must wallow in your victim status. And so many people who I see who are very successful from all walks of life, from all races, all classes, all income backgrounds, are people who just don't see the obstacles, or at least ignore the obstacles and say, well, actually, I'm going to move ahead by myself. And I do think that people get boxed in. Is that something you agree with?
And this is exactly why I said the best way to end racism is to stop speaking about it, because when we're telling kids that you can't get somewhere because somebody's privileged, what you're doing to them mental is you're telling them that there's some kind of obstacle in front of them into achieving something. And I think that's an absolutely disgusting mindset to put into children. We should be telling children you can do it. Even if there is this imaginary white privileged boogeyman out there, you can still be successful. And there's so many successful black, Asian, Hispanic people out there. That should be the example. Why are we focusing on these stories about slavery and civil rights and Martin Luther King? It's just setting people back. And I mean,
it's important to know black history, isn't it? And it's important to know the history of every country. I mean, I actually went to Alabama, went to Georgia and Texas as well, because I'm quite interested in civil rights history. But there are many people who see a line drawn right through that to present day racism. Do you?
I don't see it, honestly. The reason why I don't see it is because I don't focus on it. You only focus on what you can see. If I decide today that I'm going to see every Muslim as a terrorist, guess what? Mentally, I'm going to be fearful every time I see a person with a hijab. Just focus on what's in front of you and focus on achieving something. And not only that, to say that white people are privileged, white people are not a monolith. I think people have this idea in their mind that white people are just these successful aristocrats. No, there's people who are working class, there's people who are lower class. For example, white men, they are underachieving right now in schools in very, very drastic
You're absolutely
levels.
right. White working class boys really don't have a lot of power, and part of this idea is that if you hold cultural power, you can be racist. I mean, I do worry about what kids are being taught in our schools about this. What do you think they should, if anything, be taught about racism? Should it just be ignored? Should it be taught through history? What should happen in our schools, in your opinion?
If I'm being completely honest, I don't think the word race should be brought up at all. That's the best way to create...
We are different, though. There will be people and there will be children, and we know what kids are like. They'll say, oh, that person, you know, has a different colour of skin, or they'll say something. We were actually talking about this last week, about kids who say odd things. I remember as a kid in Northern Ireland, I was fascinated by... my parents had some Catholic friends, but not lots of Catholic friends. And I remember saying very loudly in a public context at one stage, are those people Catholics? Not because I was against Catholics, but just because as a 6 or 7 year old I was curious. I thought, okay, well, they're different from us. And kids do say those things. So there does need to be some education, does there not?
I don't think so. Honestly, yes, we are all different, but it's not something we need to do a whole course on or be teaching kids about. For instance, there might be another white man, for example, your team. Some of them are ginger, some of them are brunette, some of them have brown eyes, some of them have blue eyes. We're all different, white, black. So
we should be prejudiced against the ginger one. I think that should be in law, actually. Yeah, I'm joking.
But yeah, I don't think we should be teaching it at all. Kids can already see the difference, and to sit there and to have a child sit in like a PSHE class for 1 hour just discussing people's differences when they can be discussing, I don't know, economics or science or other important things. So there's going to be differences everywhere, and I just don't think we should sit down and just be focused on it for 1 hour.
Why do you think we are so obsessed about this? So, you know, there's DEI in so many diversity, equity, inclusion in so many different workplaces. There's so many people. I was reading a very interesting article about the BBC where people were sort of measured by some charities, by how ethnically diverse it was, for example. I mean, does that matter to you at all, or is that something where you think, right, you can have a table of 12 white men and there's diversity within that? I mean, what do you think about that?
For me personally, I think the genesis of this all was BLM. I don't know if you remember, but post BLM, we all kind of got along. We even made jokes about each other, like it wasn't that deep. Especially when my older cousins, they grew up in the 90s, and they would always tell me that everyone just got along. But post BLM, what happened is they decided to just push in this idea of socialism and Marxism. And the #1 playbook in socialism and Marxism is just to make everything about race. And what happens is people start fighting amongst each other, and they don't realize who the real threat is. And in this case, it's kind of the establishment, because the establishment is the people who are kind of puppeting and you know, causing this division. And for me personally, in terms of things like DEI, I do not care. I really do not care. For example, if I'm being attacked on the street, I'm not going to care about whether the ambulance is black or white. I just care about if you're going to help me. And not only that, if you do look at the countries that are race-based, for instance, the perfect example will be South Africa. I encourage a lot of people. What happened was the South Africans came with their socialist Marxist ideologies, encouraging this idea that all white people are bad and all white people are evil. We should kill white people. Hundreds of thousands of white people died. This was an absolute chaos. It went from being the most prosperous city in Africa to being just literally, I don't even know how to explain it, but you can look at the images. It's disastrous.
Well, I lived in South Africa actually, just for 6 months on my gap year back in the day. I loved it, but it is the most racist place I've ever been. And everything they were doing, this was about 9 years after the first democratic election, so this was 2003, and I've seen, and I'm still in contact with many people who were there of many races, actually different races, and they all feel that things have declined to a huge degree. I just wonder, I mean, have you been a victim of racism yourself?
Yeah, I have. When I was younger, I went to a school where it was predominantly white and Arab, and I was the only black person. So of course, kids, they're gonna nitpick. Oh my gosh, her hair is nappy. Oh my gosh, you know, her skin is like chocolate and things like that. But that's what kids do. Kids are very curious. Kids will poke fun at each other. But one thing I absolutely love about my parents is that they never ever told me to cry about it, or they just told me to get on with it. And I think that's the mentality most people have had, because had I just decided, you know what, this is going to be the state of my life, that I'm just this black woman with chocolate skin and nappy hair, that would have been so pathetic of me. So yes, I have experienced it, and at the end of it, I didn't die. No blood was drawn from me. No money was stolen from my bank account. And that's pretty much it. I feel like we give too much emphasis over something that is inevitable. You know what I mean? I feel like experiencing racism is almost like tripping up in the street. Everyone's going to be curious or critical of your race. Is just something we can't avoid. And I feel like we should just stop putting so much emphasis on it.
Emphasis is an interesting one, but has there been... I mean, do you think there is a sense that we should know our ethnic history, or that we should talk about that, or that we should really, the way that, for example, if you look at how the Windrush generation have been celebrated in this country after being treated so appallingly, is that something you think we should do?
Yeah, obviously. I think that people should be able to celebrate their history, their culture and customs. But another thing that they should do is that just because you're celebrating your culture doesn't mean another culture has to remain silent about theirs. And we're seeing this a lot in the UK, where multiculturalism has become this huge thing, that now the actual indigenous culture, which is English culture, is being silenced. And I don't like that. That is not representation of multiculturalism. Multiculturalism means every single person should be able to celebrate it, not, oh, we have Carnival, we have Eid, we have Diwali, but when we have UTK now, it's a problem and everyone's far right. It's absolutely disgusting. Let people celebrate. And not only that, I just want to add one more thing. We shouldn't hold people people shouldn't have to pay for the sins of their forefathers. Like, come on, I get your grandfather did some horrible things, but does that mean they need to pay? Because if that's the case, that means I need to pay, because my great-great-great-grandparents probably sold slaves and killed slaves and ate other Africans. It was actually the British that ended that barbaric acts of eating other people and killing other people in Africa. So we're all going to be paying, and I'm just sick and tired of it. It's time we move forward.
Why do you call yourself based and bougie?
Oh my God. Based, because I remember I would always check my comments and everyone would just comment base, and I'm just like, I like this. And then bougie just means like very girly, but at the same time very like headstrong, knowing your worth.
What does base mean? Sorry, I should know this and I don't.
Base just basically means someone who just has a lot of common sense and someone who can't really be shifted in terms of like their opinions and things like that, and just have like a very common sense mentality.
Talk is the home of based rather than the home of common sense. I really appreciate you coming into the studio, and really interesting to hear from you. We'll hear more from you. I'm sure again that is Based and Bougie, a journalist and broadcaster, and you're on, is it Twitter you're on, as well as lots of other social channels at Based and Bougie, so you can look her up and follow her. I certainly will be doing that. And Kath has been in touch, says, what a fabulous guest you're talking to at the moment, Peter. More of this wonderful young woman, please, says Catherine in Cardiff. Just to bring you up to date with what's happening in the United States as well. The New York Police Department says it is deploying more officers to mosques in response to the active shooter situation in San Diego. So this is in New York, the completely other coast, thousands of miles away, given what is happening in San Diego. While there is currently no known nexus to NYC or specific threats to NYC houses of worship, out of an abundance of caution, the New York Police Department is increasing deployments to mosques across the city, the department said in a statement. And the latest a few minutes ago is that authorities believe there are at least one shooter at the Islamic Center of San Diego, according to the city's police department. No confirmed details about the status of the subject or suspects. There is no confirmed information about possible victims. Active but contained is what they are calling it. We'll bring you, of course, updates on that right through to 10 o'clock, and I'm sure Petri Hoskin after 10 as well. Just one more on what Based and Bougie was talking about as well. DEI is a woke disease released on the normal working person. It's destroyed the social fabric of what it means to have a civil community. The same people that tell us that diversity is our strength. Oh, really? Prove it, says that person. Thanks for that texture. And please, if you have any thoughts on what we've been talking about or something you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk!
Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air.
Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely. I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true, yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Carrie's been in touch and says, Base and Bougie always speaks sense. I absolutely love her. When my daughter was about 4, she pointed at a massive poster in Tesco. The picture was of a black lady. My girl said, Mummy, she looks like you. I am fair, white skin, blue eyes and blonde haired and freckles. When I asked why she thought that, she said, because she's wearing glasses. Great show, says Kerry. We'll talk more about that in a second. I know Leonie and Croydon wants to have a chat with me in just a minute, which we will of course do. David Shipley is with us now because there's a story about parents facing prison if they fail to stop their children from committing a crime. This is a shake-up of the youth justice system being spearheaded by the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, who hopes to prevent children from starting a life of crime. As part of the plans, parents and carers could face greater responsibility and harsh repercussions for their children who commit crimes and cause antisocial behaviour. Well, the justice commentator and former inmate himself is David Shipley. David, I understand you are a father as well. What do you make of this story?
I mean, I'm sort of not opposed to it necessarily in principle. I think, what's driven this is the Axel Cabana case where the week before he committed the horrific murders in Southport, he was planning another attack and his father seems to have persuaded him not to go, but then didn't report it to the police. And obviously, everyone's horrified by that. But actually, I think it's a bit of distraction from all the public servants who failed in that case and who fail all the time. It's not actually the job of parents to police their violent children. Of course, they should report them to the police if they were going to go and commit a murder. But this, I think, is distracting from all the police, social workers, teachers, etc., who got it wrong.
It's an interesting point, though, isn't it, where previously, and we've been talking quite a lot about societal values, morality, and actually people taking responsibility as well, not just the perpetrators of crime, but also people around them. And you're right, in terms of the origin of this story, but in terms of responsibility and what people are taught, is there a sense, sorry, this is a long, complicated notion, but bear with me, is there a sense that the government is trying to kind of retrofit parental responsibility here, essentially, basically saying, if you don't teach your kids these values, you could be held responsible?
I think it might partly be that. I think there also might be part of trying to manage cultural differences. So in sort of what are called weird societies, so Western societies, there does tend to be the belief that you should apply the law even to your own kid. And lots of other societies that are more clannish, often with higher rates of cousin marriage, for example, don't tend to follow that belief. They tend to think that your primary purpose is not to justice, but to protect your kin and protect your clan. So, it may be they're trying to force a kind of parental responsibility into communities and groups which don't necessarily exhibit that.
Okay. And in terms of this plan, a lot of it, more of it is about youth justice, £15.4 million a year in a programme which is going to help apparently 12,000 children at risk of entering the youth justice system. Will that touch the sides?
I think if it was deployed well, it would. What concerns me here is they seem to be, they're talking about putting more money in, but actually they're continuing to try to divert away from custody. And actually, I think when we look at these most dangerous, mostly boys and young men, they do need to be going to custody sooner. Axel Cabana should have gone to jail, certainly in 2022 when he was caught on a bus by police with a knife. He told the police he was going to go and kill someone. He had a specific plan. He also told them he was making poison. And in fact, at that point, he was making ricin at home. He should have gone to jail then.
Yes.
And we have this tendency to try to do anything other than jail or take into custody in one or another. Very dangerous young men.
Do short-term sentences work, do you think? Because there's this big debate between people who say, look, if you send someone to prison for 3 months, 4 months, you're just going to get a better criminal at the end of it, a more skilled criminal at the end of it.
I mean, the evidence is very robust that short sentences don't work. And that is often used as an argument to say that we should therefore avoid jail. I would say that the evidence is also very strong that long sentences do work. Once you go over about 4 years, sentences do reduce reoffending. So, you could make the argument, therefore, if we're going to lock people up, we should do it for a minimum of 4 years. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the case for everything, but certainly if we're talking about young men who are showing repeated signs of being and becoming very, very dangerous, of having an obsession with violence and being likely to do harm, we either need to get them into secure mental health or custody environments, I think, for a fair bit of time.
Okay. David, really interesting to talk to you, as always. David Shipley, investigative journalist, former prisoner and justice commentator. On what Based and Bougie was saying, that's what she calls herself, not a real name, of course, but it's I will be following her on social media. David in Canterbury says, thanks for finding out what based means. I've been wondering for months. I'd previously put it down to be an out-of-touch middle-aged white man. Well, I am also an out-of-touch middle-aged white man, David, and I didn't know what it meant, but apparently it just means common sense. So you have some based sentiments there. Is that correct? Is that the right way to say it there? That is based. Andrea says, I follow Based and Bougie on social media. Everything she says is right. White people are often victims of racism by black and Asian people. Look at the plight of white working class boys. My friend is a black Caribbean and mixed white heritage. She suffered horrendous racism from some of the Caribbean side of her family, and she was told she had white in her. Andrea has sent that in, and thank you for it. Leonie is in Croydon, and I don't think it's too happy with something I said earlier. Leonie, you're very welcome to the programme. Tell me what I've done wrong.
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
Hello. Normally, I completely agree with you. Normally, I'm absolutely on point with most of what happens on Talk. But
I'm sensing a however coming.
There is a big however coming. As a redhead, not a ginger, I'm just putting that out there now. It's really, really important that actually, whether it's the colour of your skin or the colour of your hair, it doesn't matter. I was born the way I was. And actually, I believe, Peter, originally you might have been a redhead.
Me?
I might be wrong on that.
I was very blonde as a child, sort of strawberry blonde. I had a kind of helmet hair, Leonie. It was sort of like it was like a bowl. There was a lot of it.
And I got told by my family when I was born I looked like an orangutan. Now, that's not something
that's not very nice.
Now. No, it's not. But what I'm saying is when both of my children were born, I was really grateful that they weren't redheads because I knew what I went through as a child. And all I would say is your comments earlier about gingers...
It wasn't about gingers in general. It was about one ginger-haired person who is my producer, James, who has been here for 6 weeks, and he's actually been brilliant. Do you know what? He's made a really good impression.
Brilliant, because us redheads are amazing.
He's saying in my ear it's strawberry blonde. So, do you know what? I think that people need to judge for themselves. James, would you like to come into the studio and just have a look at your hair, and people can judge? And I mean, listen, I was taking the hand out of him, Leonie, because that's what we do here well, they certainly do in my part of the world. James is here. He's going to stand behind me and just crouch down there.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Do you think? Are you watching? Do you think that's strawberry blonde or ginger?
Careful.
I'm watching on the TV.
Oh, well, there's a bit of a delay. There's a bit of a delay.
There's a delay.
James, can I ask you, James, actually, before Leonie diagnoses whether you're strawberry blonde or ginger, did you take any offence to what I said there?
There's a right answer and a right answer. Absolutely not.
Peter,
yep.
Peter, can I just say, so I will be older than your colleague.
Right.
And I went through school being utterly bullied.
Well, that's awful, and I'm sorry that happened.
It was horrific, and I am so grateful my kids aren't. It's different now. All I'm saying is it is no different to go around saying ginge to... It's no different than... And I just wish people would be...
Bit more sensitive.
Really actually quite offensive. And
tell me, has he got strawberry blonde hair or ginger hair?
I still can't see him.
Still can't see. I tell you what, go up closer, go round the desk. He's going to go up closer to the camera and find out what it is. I want you to have a good old look.
But you know what? Whatever his hair colour is, he is beautiful, Peter. This is what matters.
Okay.
By the way, my name has an E on the end, just so you're
okay, well, it's Leonie. Let's get it all right.
There he is. I can see his... Can you bend down?
Yeah. Okay, well, he's...
Oh, no. That's serious. That's very strawberry. It's very strawberry.
Strawberry blonde.
But it's blonde. It's not. He's not a proper redhead.
He's not a proper redhead.
Redheads are fiery, and we don't like being talked down to. So please, just remember that actually there's little kids going to school with bright red hair.
I have nothing against redheads, Leonie. I have nothing against them whatsoever. I think it's a wonderful hair colour of hair and complexion.
Peter.
Sorry?
I appreciate that, Peter.
I withdraw my comments unilaterally. It was only a joke, Leonie. I hope you know that.
I do, but I just think it's important that there's some kids out there having a bit of a hard time about it, so it's important that we look after our little ones as well.
Absolutely. Well, Leonie, I can't see you. I can only hear you, but I'm sure your hair is a great asset and enhances your general... In fact, James has asked, the strawberry blonde one, has asked if you WhatsApp in a picture, we could get it up on the screen and people could decide between now and 10 o'clock. But I think, Leonie, I appreciate your call. I withdraw my comments.
I'm happy to send you one, but this could all get very difficult.
Leonie, at least we can laugh about it anyway. I appreciate your call. And yes, I was only joking about James. I was only joking. He is strawberry blonde rather than ginger. Not that either of those things matters, and both of them are, of course, wonderful hair colours. Right then, let's get back to talking about the news. And the construction sector is in crisis thanks to Labour. That is the view, certainly, of the fact that the 1.5 million home building target is now impossible. Steve Mulholland is going to join us in a second. He's a great talking and tell us all about why businesses have already been pushed close to the brink by rising costs, national insurance increases, inheritance tax changes, and why a fuel duty rise would have been the final straw for many firms. So stay with us here on Talk. We'll talk to Steve in the studio in a minute. Whatever the colour of your hair, you're welcome on this station. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Angie has been in touch saying that producer James is ginger. Bob in Cheltenham says, I'm with Leonie, I'm afraid. Bad joke, and what kind of apology was that? Okay, Bob, cool your boots. I was only joking about... James, he's not even ginger, according to Leonie. Anyway, I feel dreadful now. I don't want to offend anybody, but, you know, nobody has the right not to take offence, as we've often said in this station. On a more serious note, of course, I have an update from New York and indeed San Diego as well. San Diego police said the threat at the Islamic Center in Claremont has been neutralised. The department did not immediately provide additional information about the suspect or suspects. The agency's statement came more than an hour after its first report of an active shooter situation at the mosque. We know in New York that more officers are being deployed to mosques. We will, of course, keep you updated on that between now and 10 o'clock. Right then, I want to talk about the construction sector because the Labour have talked time and time again about 1.5 million homes, and is that target now possible? There are quite a lot of obstacles in the way of this, and Steve Mulholland is a great guest. He's been on before. Great to have him back in the programme. Chief Executive of the Construction Plant Hire Association. Stephen, great to see you in the studio. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Peter. I'm fine, thank you. I'm glad we're here to talk about construction and not gingers or ex-gingers that are going a little bit grey.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't want to in any way malign anyone for their hair colour at all. And I made a joke about gingers earlier on, and Leonie was very annoyed. She's actually sent in a picture of herself looking quite light-haired, actually, but there we are. Anyway, what do you make of what Rachel Reeves is saying about fuel duty increases, and tell me about the 1.5 million homes target as well, and how that affects all of it?
Well, it's all linked, Peter. So the 1.5 million homes, when I first spoke to you almost a year ago, nothing's changed. We're still probably hovering around about the 200,000 a year mark, so you'll be lucky to knock 1 million homes out in the term of this Parliament. That was always going to be a big ask. It's not hindsight. When the budget of autumn 24 was announced, we reckoned it was always going to be a hard one, with all the extra tax increases that were being put through on the supply chain, with the removal of business property relief, which 78% of our members and roughly 95% of the supply chain are independent, family owned. They were affected by that right away. So have to make contingencies. That's a tax if they pass a business on. The private equity PLCs, foreign businesses don't pay, so it's over 20% by the time you add it all in. You had the drop in the NI threshold, then the raising of NI itself. So that was straight on the bottom line. So right away you've got a problem then, compounded by the fact that cost of materials were going up with a lot of the net zero decisions that had been made for our members, 191,000 members, putting 14 billion into the economy that directly helped deliver these homes and the infrastructure that we need. It was just really, it was a death knell for so many of those businesses, and they're struggling to this day. This isn't hindsight, as I said. The predictions that we made a year ago through providing data to government about how businesses would fail, what it would cost the economy, unfortunately that's bearing fruit, and it's now been exacerbated that along with the road haulage industry, we use the most amount of fuel in the UK. Of course, yeah. So the fact that the increase isn't going through is welcome to a degree, but our counterparts in Ireland, Canada, Italy, Germany, France, they've already had contingency schemes in place since late March, which has given them between 20 and 30% relief, temporary relief, from then till the end of July, while the Iran crisis is ongoing. So,
do you feel there's any light at the end of the tunnel here, specifically when we see Labour in, there's obviously there's not obviously, but it looks as if there'll be a leadership election that is happening. Do you see any change coming down the track? Do you see any relief, any sense that any of those candidates actually gets what's going on in construction?
In a word, no. We really don't. We just feel that people are doubling down in the current government at the moment. We speak to all parties. We have found 2 or 3 individuals who've been incredibly helpful at constituency level within the current government, but that won't really force to any change. The people that matter don't want to listen. It is like death by 1,000 cuts. We just see nothing improving. We done a survey of our own sector to find out that 68% are still really struggling to get to grips with any sort of investment. 42% are looking at cutting back on staff. This is just a
dreadful situation. And really, if we're not building homes, this is something that is meant to bring growth to the country. What would solve it?
Well, the biggest frustration from our point of view is we know through the studies that we've done 3 major studies since autumn 2024, because we were all heart and soul. We were explaining to the government, this is why it won't work, but what could we do to help make it work, and how bad could it be, and where are we at the moment? So we found out where we were at the moment through a study with Oxford Economics, and we found out that we could be a fantastic enabler for growth. With investment coming in, every 100 billion that's spent in the construction sector, and that includes housing, 315 billion is going back into the economy. So it really is a no-brainer. But so long as the tax policy sits the way it is, then people can't afford to go out and build those homes for affordable prices. I know you like a stat or two, but last year 20% down on project starts, 32% down on main contract awards, 22% down on detailed planning approvals, 49% down on civil engineering starts. I always think the civil engineering starts is the one that you've got to really look out for, because there'll be a lag there. That's the spades in the ground getting ready to start the jobs.
Yes.
So the 49% lag there, 53% down on residential starts, and 73% down in social housing. Now, it's been in the news that one of the biggest house builders in the country, who bought into the 1.5 million new homes, the social partnerships through the government's policies, is now failing badly. And they're now cutting back. So their supply chain, it's the supply chain that supplies all the labour, all the material, boys and girls that do the actual work.
And Stephen, you're in a situation, I mean, you're the Chief Executive of the Construction Plant Hire Association. You're seeing this at the coalface. You're seeing exactly what is happening. And you're saying that one of the major planks that this government was elected on, saying that 1.5 million homes will be constructed over the course of this parliament, they may not even get 1 million because of all these problems, because of all the statistics that you've cited there.
Correct. So the money that was given away, going back to 2024 autumn budget, that went in predominantly to the public sector and some waste, had that been put in towards the private sector to help kickstart the house and to help kickstart the infrastructure plans that they have in place, because there's some really, really good plans in place. But everybody's just losing, investors are losing confidence. We're trying to talk our own industry up, because it absolutely is a fantastic industry. We've got the problem with unemployment. It can help fix that. But the big worry for us, as I mentioned, that civil engineering figure, the first quarter of this year, that civil engineering figure is down 73%. That was unexpected. They need to have a look at all the regulations that are holding things up. And they really need to get a grip on that very, very quickly, because to me that's a canary in the coal mine. That's the warning that in 6 months, 9 months time, the expected uptick that we're going to get in the industry may not come, because we expected it last year to come this year. Well, some did. We were looking at this data on the independent reports that we got commissioned, and it is a concern. And at the same time, we're trying to fix a skills crisis that we know is going to come in the future. And without those SMEs delivering and working and employing the trainees and apprentices and the operatives.
And I hear this so many times, not just in construction, but it's the hairdressers, it's the plasterers, it's the people who would usually be taking on an apprentice, but because of national insurance rises, because of insurance, because of so many different factors, they're not taking those people on. And it's people who are, you and I both know that 99% of businesses in this country have 7 or fewer people working in them, and they're not taking on that extra person.
You have that. They're not. You're right. They're not taking on for all the reasons I mentioned. And things like minimum wage as well has become a problem in certain sectors, not so much our own. But they have to recognise that there's got to be a shift in policy. We've got the Employment Rights Act coming down the bill. You know, that's just making it so difficult. They're looking for quarterly reports from those small businesses via HMRC. They're busy at the coalface. They don't employ people to do those jobs.
Well, that is a really interesting one about making tax digital and the quarterly reports for HMRC. I mean, that's a lot of work for people. We have a lot of viewers and listeners to this station who are your people. There are people too, and they're people who run small businesses. They're maybe watching the show in the evening as they've done a hard day's work, and they're thinking, you know, I did this once a year, now I needed it 4 times a year. Does the government get it? Does it understand what it's like in the private sector?
No. They really don't. I mean, it's like the magic money tree that just keeps on giving. But we all know when you've got, you know, welfare almost outstripping or possibly outstripping tax receipts, then that's a balance that's got to change. 25% of the working age population isn't working. 1 million of them are kids that are not in employment or training at the moment, and you know that's probably going to grow. So we are an industry where there's lots and lots of opportunity if we can get the backing and get it right. But the outside investment is a problem. We go to meetings, we attend meetings to try and get people to invest, and that'll help keep the supply chain busy. But at the moment there is this more on value on investors looking at the UK PLC. And back to the HMRC thing, do they get it? No, these small businesses, you know, they'll have somebody at the end of the year that'll pull everything together for them and do it. Then imagine you've got to sit down every 3 months and try and do that, and then when you're late, that's when you say, what's the point?
Well, it's good for the accountants, it's not good for everybody else.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Listen, thank you. I could talk to you all day, Stephen. There's so much to talk about. We will talk again before too long. That's Stephen Mulholland there, who's Chief Executive of the Construction Planter Association. Maybe you're one of these people who's facing some of the challenges that Stephen's talking about. Let me know your thoughts. There's plenty of time before the end of the programme. Give me a shout. We'll have a chat. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut on it.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely. I'm loyal.
Don't tell Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots of people getting in touch, often about hair. And Leonie has been in touch. She sent me a picture of her lovely hair. Which is, I would say, more strawberry blonde, actually. David in Canterbury says, me again, I love red hair, on women anyway. On the subject of being bullied because of some characteristic, I grew up with Tourette syndrome. I still have it. I was verbally abused at school, but I don't think it did me any harm in the long term. You might say it makes you stronger in some way. It could even be a good excuse to call Starmer and his colleagues a bunch of sods, although as happens, 90% of us with Tourette's don't have a problem with foul language, says David in Canterbury, who can clearly laugh at himself. Listen, thank you for that, David. I'm sorry to hear that you are dealing with that. And yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a question about what is actually okay to sort of take a hand out of people and have a bit of a joke. I remember I worked with a very, very famous broadcaster on one occasion in the early part of my career, and I was basically told the more this person slags you off and takes a hand out of you and criticises you and jokes with you, the more they like you. And I got an email from this person which was particularly critical and made reference to my heritage, to my weight, to various things, and I showed it to a manager, not because I was complaining, but just because I thought it was so kind of near the knuckle. And the manager said, well, he clearly likes you very much because he doesn't send those emails to many people because you know, you're getting on well. So there we are. David in the Cotswold says, evening Peter, Rayner and Reeves are a pair of fruitcakes. Are we allowed to call people fruitcakes anymore? I don't know. You can't build 1.5 million homes when the cost of doing business is through the roof. Monkey See as she wants it, Monkey Do hikes all the costs. Do they not get it, is an interesting point from David in the Cotswolds, and thank you for that. We have a voice note now from Ruth.
Hi, Ruth from Ilkeston. I've got to say, The man is strawberry blonde and a very good-looking man.
Okay, well, Ruth, an interesting point in that James, who is obviously, in your opinion, strawberry blonde, is in charge of putting the voice notes on the show as the producer. He's the person who makes the decision whether the voice notes are played or not. Mostly we play them. We try to play them as much as we can. And isn't it strange how he wanted a voice note on the programme saying that he was very good looking? So Ruth, I think your number perhaps came up on the screen, so maybe James can give you a call, you lucky thing. Lots to discuss, of course, on what we've been discussing on politics as well. Let's just remind ourselves a little bit about what the Prime Minister was saying earlier today on Brexit. Keir Starmer has been talking about this as a big, big issue for so many people, of course, whether there's a betrayal on Brexit. Burnham's been talking about it, and Wes Streeting as well. But this is what the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been saying.
The way I see it is this. We inherited a really bad Brexit deal that Boris Johnson has negotiated. It was a botched deal. It doesn't work for businesses, doesn't work for the country. What I've done in 2 years is to completely reset our relations with our EU partners, to already have improved on that deal, which is what I did last year. This year we have another summit with the EU where we're going to take a really important leap forward in terms of the relationship, bring us closer to Europe. It's really good for businesses, really good for some of the businesses in this room, really good for the country. So that's what I intend to do, not get lost in a debate about what may happen years down the line. I'm grounded in the job that I'm doing, which is to make sure we are closer to the EU and doing the hard yards of making sure that we establish a relationship to make that get that relationship with the EU into a better place. And again, reminding myself, why would we want to do that? For businesses, for the country, for the economy, because it's the best thing. It's in our national interest. So that's where my focus is.
Your Starmer there. Just to bring you up to date with what's happening in San Diego and indeed New York. In San Diego, at least one suspected shooter is dead after a shooting incident at the Islamic Center of San Diego, according to 2 senior law enforcement officials with direct knowledge of the matter and 2 other law enforcement officials briefed on the matter. The specific motive for the shooting has not been released by police, nor is the name of the subject. It's unclear whether there are additional injuries or fatalities. We did hear earlier that at least 2 people were dead. We don't know if that is the shooter themselves, but we certainly know that officials in attendance at that situation at a mosque in San Diego, there was a figure earlier on of 2 people dead, a heavy police presence in San Diego, and we know as well that in New York there have been patrols that have been stepped up near mosques as well. Another bit of breaking news actually during the evening is that Donald Trump says he has cancelled the US attack on Iran planned for tomorrow. That's at the request of various Gulf allies too. And earlier on in the programme, someone said that 1 in 5 cars sold in the UK was purchased through the Motability Scheme. I said that seemed too high for me. The team checked it, and it is in fact true. The charity, the Motability Scheme, acts as Europe's largest fleet operator with more than 860,000 customers on the scheme. Those statistics are from 2024. So very interesting thoughts there. Final call of the evening from Harry in Sheffield, who's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Harry, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I love you, Ginger Ninja. It's just the thing about, was it restore and all this type of thing that you're about?
Yeah, restore Britain, the political party, yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one, Ben Habib, is that Advanced? Yeah.
Advanced UK, yeah, that's the one that Ben Habib has, yeah.
Yeah, I just think everyone's going on about Nigel Farage, what have you, and I don't. The people say they'll win this and win that, but I think the situation in this country now at the minute, right, Farage isn't going to be enough. You had that guy from Minnesota on, didn't you?
Yeah, we spoke to Jeff a little bit earlier on. Where does your faith? Which political party do you have faith in, Harry?
I'm up in the air. I wait for Farage, and then I've started
Okay, well, listen, thanks for your thoughts. I appreciate those from Harry in Sheffield as well. Leslie's been in touch and says, please, do we have to listen to Starmer for all the voice coaching? His voice is awful. Well, the fact remains that he is the Prime Minister, Leslie, but thank you for that. Just a reminder that the FIFA World Cup 2026 is almost here, and thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at talkSPORT are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on the 17th of June with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets and your very own Adidas official match ball. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Ready to get that winning feeling? Well, here is how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
It's been a bit quiet. Well, listen, thank you for Petri Hoskin coming in. We'll talk to her in a second, but very good luck with the competition. And we will now talk to Petri about what's coming up on our programme between 10 and 1.
Yes, coming up, we're going to be talking about Trojan footprint.
Trojan footprint?
You don't know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
That is NATO's largest special forces military exercise, which is going on at the moment.
Okay.
And it's really, really important. They're practicing against an unnamed enemy.
Right.
That probably begins with an R and ends with an A.
And ends with an usher.
Usher in the middle. It's absolutely fascinating, actually. It's just looking at what we're trying to do and attempting to do to show force, to show that NATO's not a dead duck, and to show Russia some teeth, I think, at this really, really, really difficult time. Of course, Putin is going to Beijing tomorrow.
Ah, yes, of course,
because Xi is packing them all in.
Well, he saw Trump last week, exactly.
He saw Trump last week, and he was meeting with Iran a week or so before that. So they're keeping their cards close to their chest, really, as to who they're backing here in this world at the moment. So it's a really important time for NATO to be seen to be doing its thing, but will it do the job?
Slightly off topic, but it's sort of on topic. Have you seen the drama Tehran? Have you seen it? It's so good. I'm watching it at the moment. I'm in the third series. I'm binging it. It is just brilliant. And it's really interesting because Larijani is actually there as a character, and then it was obviously filmed and broadcast before everything happened in the last few months. Sorry, totally off topic, but I just love it.
It is fantastic. It's brilliantly done, and it's produced largely by Iranians as well, I believe.
That's right.
So it's fantastic. It's really, really well done. Then we're going to be talking. It's so interesting, isn't it, that Andy Burnham was the saviour of this country, and then the press today have gone right after him.
Yeah, of course. The worm always turns.
Dragging him down, talking about all his Air Miles Andy too, all of that. So, and also this by-election, absolutely fascinating. A lot of people are saying that he's not going to win it. So it is really